All right, welcome back to the Unnamed Movie Car Podcast. We are recording live at a unnamed bay in Los Angeles, and that means today we're talking about the Cannonball Run. I'm Zach. There's birds in the air because we are, in fact,
in a marina.
At the marina.
And
yes, I forget the
boats.
name of it.
There's boats.
Wow, we have live FX.
I'm doing Foley sounds here. All right.
But yeah, we're talking about the Cannonball Run today. Released in 1981, directed by Hal Needham, starring Burt Reynolds, Roger Moore, and Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah.
And Dom DeLuise, Dean Martins, and Sammy Davis Jr.
Yes.
And Jackie Chan. And Peter Fonda.
I know.
There it is. I'm done for real now.
Okay, there's a ton of people. There's a ton of famous stars in this movie. There's
Lots
just
of
a
stars.
lot, especially in the 80s.
Yeah. Which, actually, later on in the trivia, I don't know if I wrote this down. This was one of the first movies for Jackie Chan in America.
Really?
This is one of his first American
Well,
films.
good way for him to kick it off.
Yeah,
No
great.
pun intended. But
Not
hey.
great. Hey, be here all week.
Right.
But yeah, this was my first time watching it all the way through.
Me too. I've never seen the whole thing either.
This was your pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. This came out.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah, why'd you put me through this?
Yeah.
Here's something interesting I thought of right after my first viewing. And I don't know if there's any logic behind this, but follow me here.
Okay.
This movie gave me serious, scary movie vibes.
What?
Not that it was a horror movie, but
Right.
you remember those movies, Scary Movie?
Right.
Scary Movie 1, 2, and 3.
Oh,
and it was
you mean
kind of like
the takeoffs of the scary movies, or actual scary movies?
No, it's such a dumb name. It had like Charlie Sheen in it.
Okay.
You
Oh,
remember
right,
this?
right,
And
right. Yeah.
It would basically rip off
Yes.
all of the
Yes.
horror
Yes.
movies that came out that
Exactly.
year.
Right. That's
so it was like
exactly
a little bit of there was the girl that crawled through the TV.
Yes.
And there was aliens.
Yes.
And there was Michael
'Cause
Jackson.
That happens. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I sort of felt like it was one of those movies that are all blended together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Like there's the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yeah.
Or it's Forgetting Sarah Marshall, so he felt super bad about it.
Yeah.
It's some huge mix. It's like that.
Yeah.
That's what I sort of thought of. Your thoughts, please.
Oh gosh, where do I begin? It's a very silly movie.
Mm-hmm.
I remember. So in 1981, I was a sophomore in high school.
Wow.
So I was 15 years old,
Yeah.
and I think that's actually the target market
About.
for this
Yeah.
movie is a 14, 15-year-old boy.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the cars and the women and all of that in it, and James Bond and the whole
Right.
thing. So it really was a movie, and so of course at the time I probably thought, "Wow, it's a great movie."
Yeah.
And
But that's sort of where I got that feeling of like there's obvious references to Smokey and the Bandit.
there
It was
is.
directed by the same
Yep.
director.
is it really?
Yes.
Okay.
So
All right,
how?
well, that's good to know.
I think it's pronounced Needham. It's
Needham.
literally
Needham?
Needham.
I think it's Needham.
It's
but I
literally
don't know.
spelled Needham. The man needs
ham.
meat.
He
but
needs ham.
right. So
Okay,
he did Smokey 1 and Smokey 2 and I think Smokey 3.
Okay.
Um,
Was there a Smokey 3?
there was because
Oh,
I have
boy.
a trivia.
All right.
about it.
Well, there we go. All right.
But so there's a couple references, obviously with Burt Reynolds.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of
yeah.
Smokey references,
Right.
the James Bond references.
Smokey Robinson.
Not quite. I just felt like it was almost. There was a lot of pop culture references. I think that's
lot.
why I equate it to the scary movie of yesteryear, if that makes sense.
Yes. No, I totally get that, and it's so campy and silly, like not even that. I mean, there were a couple parts where I went, "Haha, that's pretty funny," but there was like mostly just goofy, childish humor, really raunchy, and really like bad stuff if you think about it, as far as like drinking and driving and
That I wrote down a
Besides.
whole section
Yeah,
of
there's
my
a lot.
notes.
Yeah.
That literally the title of the notes is "Movie Did Not Age Well."
Well, that's a good way to put it.
One of the things, drinking and driving and abduction of Farrah Fawcett.
Oh yeah,
is just
that's
like
just a absolute.
they just abducted her, and also, one, she never
Completely
tries
kidnapping.
to run away.
No, she doesn't.
And two, the people or the guy that she was with that was hurt. First of all, is he okay?
Oh yeah, he's at the end of the movie.
Oh,
He's
right.
the one,
You're
right?
You're
He's at the end of the movie, smoking the cigar with Roger Moore in the Aston Martin.
So I guess there's a little
spoiler alert.
Yeah, sorry. This should just be the spoiler alert podcast. But
Right.
but also, I thought that this was funny. Sort of didn't age well with the current pandemic in which we're in.
Yes.
There's a scene where the Rolls Royce pulls up to a restaurant.
Yes.
And the lady says, "That's the first time we've taken order by phone." To the Rolls Royce driver.
Really?
And I laughed at that scene because I'm like, man,
wow.
when was the last time I didn't check in or order something on my phone and then, or call ahead? I even had to call ahead for the museum today.
Yes.
So,
and by the way, a very racist movie all around. For
that was my number one, was stereotyping and racism.
Yes, exactly. Unbelievable.
As we mentioned before, Jackie Chan plays a Japanese character in the movie when he himself is Chinese.
Right.
But he was... Normally, I'm like, whatever. You can play whatever you want. If you can play it well, whatever. But he was actually upset at this because he didn't know that the role was of a Japanese person.
Right.
And he himself is Chinese.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of stuff there. There's just a lot of very harsh stereotypes in the movie.
Yes, and we know from... There are family members in our family that are Chinese, then you don't mix...
Right.
You don't, say, oh, you're Asian.
Right.
You don't say stuff like that. You can't do that.
You can't cast someone as Asian.
No.
I mean, that's, that's blatantly very wrong.
That's just one step above Oriental.
Yeah, I mean...
you can't say, because that's just, it's not right anymore. I mean, it's just, and there were so many things to that. It's funny because now I look at the movie and I'm like, wow, I'm really offended by a lot of stuff in this movie that I never thought I would be offended by, but I really am. I mean, the drinking and driving, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was...
Getting with the drinking, just the blatant drinking and driving.
I mean, blatant.
I mean, there's the one car has all of the Budweiser packed in the back.
Right.
I mean, but also think about it. Smoking and the Bandit was about driving beer across country.
Exactly,
But here's the interesting thing that I was thinking about last night is that, yes, this movie is very politically incorrect by 2021 standards.
Yeah.
Very, very politically incorrect.
Yeah.
But I don't think...
Let's put it mildly, actually.
Yeah, I mean... It pretty much, if there's any other race than white in the movie, it's hardcore stereotypes.
Oh yeah, really.
But
out there, yeah.
I don't think this movie should be canceled or censored, and I don't think the people in it should be canceled or censored because I think
I don't want
very
to cancel anybody in the movie. But
half of them are dead.
Well, that is true. Half
you can't
of them,
cancel the dead.
That is true.
Yes.
But Jackie Chan's alive, isn't he?
Jackie Chan's alive. Yeah.
Okay.
But Burt Reynolds is dead. Farrah Fawcett's dead.
Right. Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah,
Dean Martin. I think Dean Martin's
dead. Yeah, I think
dead,
Dean Martin's dead.
It's
also,
this is a very cold podcast, by the way. We just say it out.
Spoiler alert for Cannonball 2.
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra's in Cannonball 2.
Frank Sinatra,
along with Sammy Davis Jr. and Dean Martin.
Wow,
I don't know how they didn't sign him for the first one, but they got him for the second one.
Wow. Okay.
I happened to be scoping the Wikipedia today.
Are we going to have to see Cannonball 2?
100%. Because that's the reason we watched Cannonball 1. The reason we watched Cannonball 1 was because it was Cannonball 2 was referenced in the show that we're currently watching off podcast.
That's right.
Of The Good Place.
The Good Place, yes.
The Good Place is a TV show
enjoyable.
starring Kristen Bell, my celebrity crush.
Yeah.
Where it's heaven and hell, but then there's a medium place where everything is just average,
yes.
and the only VHS found in the medium place is Cannonball 2.
And it's VHS, and it's Cannonball Run too. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so that was kind of the reason we brought up Cannonball.
Right.
And then I happened to find it at Meijer for $5 in the $5 movie bin.
Yeah, so it was fate.
It was fate.
It was
and Meijer's the only store open past 10 p.m. during the pandemic.
Yeah.
They used to be 24 hours, but
That's
now
true.
they close at midnight.
A lot of stores were 24 hours, and now they're
for
closed,
deep
but
cleaning or whatever. Which
they're
let's
not
be
doing
honest,
that anymore.
They're
Nice.
wet wiping some of the shelves, and that's about it. At least at the Walmart here in town.
It's a very different world. So we live in a very different time.
Oh yeah.
Than let's go back to Cannonball Run.
Yeah.
In the early 80s, like very early, 80, 81, very different world. Even more different than like 84. You're talking about the Reagan era, all that stuff.
Right.
You know, you're talking
Where
about a very interesting
cracked
time.
down on drinking and driving.
Yes.
Yes,
that
Nancy
was
Reagan
big.
cracked down on a lot of
that
things.
was very big. That was very big. But
obviously drug use was her sort of big thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's just so interesting seeing how the drinking and driving was like a funny goof.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
and
like that was
like I remember in high school they showed us video footage of drunk driving accidents.
Right.
Like it has been, jackhammered into my generation's head about how wrong drinking and driving is.
Well, and then we have a personal thing that happened with us in our family.
Right.
We lost we lost a friend to drinking and driving who was hit by a drunk driver.
Right.
So that was, I mean, in that, like you said, in your generation, that was drilled into your head. You don't do that. And even in our generation, it wasn't, I mean, yeah, okay, it happened, but it still wasn't like I don't think it was as blatant as the movie portrayed, because the movie was like, oh yeah, everybody's gonna get a six-pack. And
they pulled up to the police checkpoint drinking beers while driving.
Yes,
there wasn't even like put it down. Like it was like,
well,
I think he offered him one, did he not?
I think so. And yes, he did. And he's flying a plane drinking a six-pack. Did you see that?
Yes.
So he's flying a plane. I mean, that's like I can't even say how bad and wrong and everything that is.
Yeah.
Of course, it made for a very cool stunt in the movie where they land a plane in the middle of a town street.
I couldn't find if that was real or not. It looked very real.
It looked very real to me too, and I think I've actually, to be honest with you, I've actually had dreams that I was flying a plane on a street, and then taking off and trying to hope that I didn't clip the wings on telephone poles.
I was going to say, there's
wires.
telephone lines in that shot.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't, and that was kind of pre-CGI stuff, so really wasn't a lot of.
It would have been a miniature, or it would have been a rear projection, and it was definitely not a rear projection.
It wasn't a rear projection. It could have been. It might have been a miniature, but I think it was real. I think it was actually real, and that was, too. This movie had a lot of stunts in it, and a lot of scary stunts too. So we'll probably talk about that.
It's just very interesting seeing the differences 40 years makes.
Oh gosh, well. Yeah, now that you say 40 years. I mean, you think about it, it's almost half a century.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, wow.
So,
when you say it like that, that makes a little bit more sense.
So, yeah.
But,
4 decades, it's a long time ago.
It is. A couple other things I had written down here.
I'm very old.
I know.
Wow, thanks.
So preparing for this, I started rewatching the movie again. So I've seen it 1.5 times today.
Really?
I watched it all the way through today while working.
Oh, I'm
sorry. And then I started it again. No, it's just fine. Like, I just had it up.
Okay.
The intro's the best part of the whole movie.
It is.
Hands down.
Yeah.
The Countach out in the desert.
Yeah.
And they get out and they spray paint the red X over the 55 mile an hour sign.
Yeah.
Hands down, best part of the movie.
If they were trying to sell the movie to the studio, and they just showed them that opening part, they probably could have sold it on that.
That's
and
probably
maybe
what they did do.
Maybe could have been it.
But going off of that,
the
Countach isn't red.
Yes, that's
it's
true.
Black.
Yes, that's true.
So first of all, the cover of the movie has a red Countach on it. There are no red Countaches in the entire film.
Okay.
At all.
Wow, you nailed them.
Well. It was such a Mandela effect because I started watching this and I was like,
Howie Mandela?
Yeah, Howie Mandela, where he sanitizes the whole movie. I started seeing the black Countach going across the desert and I'm like, oh, maybe they paint it for the race.
Right.
Okay, and then the race comes and I'm like, maybe they paint it halfway through to get away from the cops.
And they did paint the other car.
But then I'm like, it's still black.
Yeah. Well, they did paint the other car. I mean, they did.
Yeah.
So.
The Monte Carlo? It was either the Monte Carlo or the Chevelle they paint. in the movie. Is
Yeah.
that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay,
They painted it gray. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, I guess.
It was to cover up the racing numbers, right?
I guess.
But then the paint was coming off. So
right.
It's like,
but then.
who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
What else did I have written down? Oh, interestingly enough. So, I don't know if this is common knowledge for movie fans, but the Cannonball Run is a real race. It's an actual like here in real life, people actually drive from New York to Los Angeles in the quickest amount of time. Now in the movie, they said that the current record is 32 hours and 52 minutes. Back in 1981, the record was 32 hours and 54
I think
50
it was,
something
30,
minutes.
31 hours, yeah.
Right now, here in 2021, it's just over 25 hours.
Gosh.
People have shaved, what is that, 7 hours off of the cross-country trip.
That's amazing.
Just with modern technology.
That's amazing. You know why?
Why?
No Dom DeLuise. That's why. That is the reason why.
He was weighing it down. He was weighing
I didn't say that.
down.
I was just saying he was doing the dun-dun-dun-dun, and doing that thing.
Yeah, well.
And he does not do,
You know the real reason why it's gotten faster.
I know why.
Craig Lieberman.
Our friend Craig Lieberman.
Shout out Craig Lieberman
Shout
from
out
the
to
Fast
Craig
and the
Lieberman.
Furious.
Hopefully he's going to sponsor this.
I
this
don't
podcast.
think that'll ever happen, but
so you could dream.
yeah,
You can
that is
dream
quite
it.
the pipe dream.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I just found that interesting. So even today, and actually, especially during COVID, when the lockdown first happened in pretty much March and April of 2020, people were going insane cannonball running because everyone was working at home. The highways for about 2 months were very, very empty because most people were working from home,
Oh.
So last March and April, there was this huge pickup of people. I think it got broken a couple of times, the record.
Wow.
A couple of times in 2 months because people had this opportunity with the roads being the most empty they've been ever. They had this awesome opportunity to actually race coast to coast. So we'll talk about it a little bit more when we talk about the vehicles themselves, which we can talk about now.
Lots of fun, cool vehicles and lots of fun stuff.
So just for the people listening, the Cannonball Run is a real race. This wasn't fictitious for a campy 80s movie. It started actually in the early 70s and actually used to be sponsored by Dodge.
No.
Yeah. So it was the Cannonball Run was an idea by I believe it was two writers for Car and Driver.
Oh.
It was named after some stunt motorcycle guy. His nickname was Cannonball. And he had a bunch of different records for point-to-point racing. Not
last
only,
name Run? Was that it? Cannonball, last name Run?
Last name was Run.
Yeah.
No, so he had a bunch of different point-to-point. I watched a VinWiki video. VinWiki, they do car stories on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Great YouTube channel. It's really interesting. But they did a whole video about it, and they were talking about how he had over 100 point-to-point records. Like all the way up the East Coast, all the way up the West Coast, And so they named it after him, basically. And, the first couple of years of it, the Dodge Caravan was actually the official car of the Cannonball Run.
The Dodge Caravan.
Yeah, which I actually believe was like the 80s, so not the first couple of years, but later on.
Dodge Caravan. Wow.
But yeah, the Dodge. There's a banner picture somewhere.
That's like
it's the Car and Driver official van of the Cannonball Run.
That's a mom car.
Yeah.
If there ever was
I
one.
actually really want to drive an 80s Dodge Caravan.
Yeah.
You can get them in manual.
You can.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
which
that.
is really cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of
much
which,
a family car. Yes.
Do we want to get on to the cars?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about cars.
So first of all, we have to talk about the top dog, the number one, the most important and most famous vehicle from the Cannonball Run.
Yeah.
Seen first at around the 30-minute mark, a 1979 Mazda RX-7 SA.
Wait, what?
You didn't see it?
No.
How did you not see it? It's in crystal white. Ooh. It's a 79 SA RX-7. It's at the starting hotel or wherever they're at.
Really? Okay.
There's a white
because it's like
RX-7.
I thought the hotel was the Cannonball Hotel, but it's not. It
No.
just had a sign that said Cannonball
Yeah.
or something like
Where
that.
they first,
Right.
when they're all
Yes.
pulling in
Yes,
during
exactly.
the day, there's
Yeah.
a white SA RX-7 with the same fog lights that you had on your SA RX-7.
How did I miss that?
And it had, I believe it had louvers.
Now, I know. I like the louvers. You don't. I know. You don't. You hate them. Just be honest. No.
I don't hate louvers. Here's the thing.
No.
I don't like louvers on modern cars because people put them on brand new Mustangs and I think they look ridiculous.
Okay, yeah.
Also, if I want to get louvers for my RX-7,
Yeah.
the only ones that are really around
Yeah.
are either stainless steel metal ones, which are silver,
Okay.
or the original ones from the 80s, which have all warped
Oh.
and are misshapen and they don't fit well anymore.
I could 3D print one for you.
That would be an intense job, but we'll talk after the pod.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was a 12A rotary engine. I thought I saw it in the background of when they drive the car into the pool.
Oh, it might have been.
I thought I saw it through the fence, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it could have been. And the whole thing with that is the fact that I missed the car. I'm gonna have to watch it again. I have to go back in and take a look at that because I am so shocked that I missed that because I almost always see the RX-7s.
Here's the funny thing. So I noticed it at the 32-minute mark when the guy is holding up the van and they're changing the tire.
Oh yeah, right.
You see the front corner of it on the right side of the screen. You see the fog light, and I'm like, instantly I knew. I'm like, that's a first-gen RX-7.
Yes. Yeah.
So then I start to go do my research for this podcast, and there's a great website, IMCB, which is Internet Movie Card Database, or DB, IMCDB. Whatever, just use the acronym for Internet Movie Card Database. They have literally they pull cars from like the background.
Wow.
Like it's
amazing.
intense.
Yeah.
They document
that is
like everything.
That is
and so
amazing.
I was going through just to get years of some of the cars to do some research. And then I click on it and there's a full shot of like when they're coming into the hotel. It's a full shot of the RX-7 that I missed.
Wow.
But I caught the tiny little corner of it for 0.2 seconds.
Did you go back and look in the
I did.
movie? Yeah, now that we own it.
And I saw it, and it's front and center. It gets a quarter second of screen time.
We're going to have to own Cannonball Run 2.
I know. We're going to have to.
Just for the sake of
owning it. But finding it, I feel like, is going to be harder.
It might be, yeah. It might be because it's...
I think we should try to own all the movies we do.
Yeah, that's a great... that is a aim high. That is a great...
I think we could do it.
Yeah, we probably could.
I think we could do it.
So far, I mean, we own Blues Brothers.
Okay, this is episode 3, so like we're not that far.
Well, yeah, we could do that. I think that would be fun to have the collection.
To have a collection. Maybe on the 100th episode, we'll raffle it off to one of you awesome viewers.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea. Yeah. Wow, I'm so smart.
Think it on the fly. That's good. That's good.
Judging by the fact that we actually have 0 viewers right now because we haven't even released the first episode yet.
Exactly. I'm hoping for one viewer.
One viewer. That's all I want. I just
listener.
want one guy in Wyoming to be like,
right.
These guys are manageable. Not even good. We want to be the medium place of podcasts.
This is...
It's not terrible, but it's not good.
Yep. We don't have... we're happy with middle ground.
Yeah, we're the lukewarm podcast.
That's right. The lukewarm car show movie podcast.
Yeah. So getting on with the rest of the cars. There's a lot of cars in this movie.
There's a lot.
Some of which I could find specs for, some I could not. But I think obviously the most interesting is the 1978 Dodge Sportsman ambulance.
Yes.
And this is part of our trivia, but I thought I should include it with the ambulance. You ready for this?
Okay.
Not sponsored, but directly pulled from imdb.com. The ambulance used in the movie is the actual ambulance the director Hal and screenwriter Brock Yates souped up and raced in the real Cannonball Run.
No kidding.
Yes.
They actually used that?
Yes. It gets better.
Wow.
It had been modified with a Hemi engine, and it made it up to 145 miles an hour at one point.
Wow.
So last night when you're like, oh, yeah, Countach and an ambulance, I'm like,
yes.
They got the ambulance to do 145. So
when the van pulls beyond or pulls past the Countach, I'm like,
now acceleration, I don't think it has it on the Countach, but the Countach could do close to 200 miles an hour.
Well, in the movie they see
Movies-
240.
They say 220 in the movie.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, the girls say 220.
All right.
You can't catch us at 220.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
So this is going back to the van. It was equipped with 4 gas filler holes and it required 90 gallons of fuel. So they fit in extra large. That's one of the things that people doing these runs is they fill the entire trunks with fuel tanks.
You know, did you see the part when they're at the gas station and they use both pumps?
Yes. That's a real thing.
That's okay. So
that's a real thing that people do.
Okay.
And with current Cannonball runs, they actually they plan out their fuel stops, and they have people waiting at the pumps.
Wow.
So like, usually they only stop for fuel about 3 times across the country.
Yeah.
Because they have I think it's 150-gallon tanks in the trunk.
Jeez.
I mean, it's literally the entire trunk is the gas tank.
Yeah.
And so they have a guy, they call a guy in Nebraska, and they're like, we're going to be here at this time. They give them credit cards are in, pumps are literally in hand.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because there's a scene in the movie where there's a car that runs into they're stopped at a roadblock.
Right.
And there's a car that gets out of the hand and it goes really fast and it runs right into a police car.
Oh, the
and
explosion.
It blows up
Yeah.
Like a tanker. It's so I'm laughing because you're like, well, they got 90 gallons of gas in the car. Well, maybe that was real then.
Could be. But well, the other thing is that actually earlier this year, one of the Cannonball Run record-holding cars was hit by a semi in the back.
Wow.
Which there's dash cam footage of it. They pulled over because they weren't participating in that race, but they were filming someone go by, and a sleepy driver took out the car.
Wow.
But it didn't blow up, so it's relatively safe. There's actually never been a fatality on the Cannonball Run race.
Good.
There was a limo that did it that spun off, and they totaled the limo, but that was the only one I could find of an actual, and there was a broken arm.
Okay, well.
So, but that's the only fatality, or not fatality. That's the only injury I found.
Okay. Then it's okay. Keep going.
This is still the van. This is still
the van. Keep going. Okay.
So it had the 4 filler holes and required 90 gallons, which is 341 liters, and it could be pumped quickly with the 4 filler holes.
Yeah.
How do we say the director's last name?
Needham
and Yates didn't win the race because the transmission blew in Palm Springs, California.
Okay.
So Needham kept it in storage for a couple of years until it came time to make this film. After the movie, he gave it to a church charity, which raised a good deal of money auctioning it off.
Wow.
Yeah. So very, very interesting story with the ambulance. First of all, modified and would do 145.
That's very
in a
fast
van
for a
like
van.
that. Like literally, it's a brick.
Yeah.
You're doing 145 miles an hour in a brick.
Yeah.
But I thought it was cool that car actually did that race.
That is cool. That is very cool. That is very cool.
Do you remember in the movie how they're talking about how they were worried the transmission would blow?
Yes.
That's because the transmission blew a couple of years earlier during the actual race.
Yes. And then there's that weird scene where they're going through the roadblock and they're piggybacking on the back of a truck.
Yes.
And they're underneath a cover. And Dom DeLuise is underneath, evidently working on the transmission. Because remember they said there was... Do you remember that? He was...
Yeah, I thought he was working on the tire.
Okay, well, I think it was the transmission because he talked about it slipping.
Yeah.
So that probably does come from real life, but unless that car was jacked up, I don't know how Dom DeLuise got underneath the van to work on
Also, there's nothing really serviceable on the outside of a transmission.
Oh, that's true, too.
An automatic transmission, at least. There's some linkages that go from the shifter down into the transmission.
Yeah, I guess, unless he's checking.
But if it's slipping, that's
something
interior. Yeah, unless he was just checking fluid, which 9 times out of 10 is under the hood.
No, he looked like he had a wrench in hand. I mean, it's not. Yeah.
I mean,
I always love that in movies when they're going to fix the car and they've got a wrench in their hand.
They take one singular wrench. I mean, how many times have I crawled under a car with the wrong wrench?
Oh, my gosh.
And then you have to get back up and you scrape your knees.
Yeah.
And
it's like 50 million times. And not only that, it's always like very nice. There's no rust falling in your eyes.
Yeah.
There's no difficulties. And the nut comes off nice, it doesn't ever happen like that. Anyway.
Moving along here, because we have so many vehicles to get
Okay, let's keep going.
1980 Lamborghini Countach LP 400S.
Oh, the LP 400.
Yeah, so it had a 3.9-liter V12, 5-speed manual, which it's kind of interesting that it never had a 6-speed manual.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised at that.
With a couple of these other cars were still 3-speed manuals.
Oh,
so I guess
okay.
5-speed was kind of good.
What did the SA have? 5 speeds?
The very first year was 4, and then it switched over to 5. So your car was 5.
Yeah.
But you could get some very early, like I believe it's really only 78s.
Yeah.
When they're 79 cars, but manufactured in 78 and sent here in 78.
Yeah.
Some of those had the 4-speed manuals. I drove a 4-speed manual.
Okay.
It's a dog of a transmission. It's terrible.
So let's get back to the Countach and the front with the front air dam.
The front spoiler and the 12 different exhaust pipes. Yeah.
Really?
It had 12 exhaust pipes.
Jeez. Okay. All right, good.
So the other interesting thing with all of these is that they didn't have duplicates like they do now. Like they didn't have 5 different Countaches.
Oh.
There was the Countach.
Okay.
That's it. Because it was later owned by a celebrity, and then he sold it. There was just one.
And that was a real Countach, though, wasn't it? Okay.
Yes.
Because a lot of times in the movie, especially after that, they use replica cars. I mean, replica cars.
Number 1 is Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, is it?
That Ferrari is a replica.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, why buy a real one?
Especially
wrecking one.
Exactly. And that's why, it makes a lot more sense to do that. But, the older movies, those were all the real deal. And, okay, so we're going to get to the DB5 later. But anyway, go ahead.
There's some trivia things about the Countach, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.
So next up is the 1963 Aston Martin DB5.
I love that car.
4-liter straight 6. It was either 5-speed manual, which I think was in the movie. It was manual, right?
And you mentioned it was right-hand drive.
Yeah, so it was actually an imported DB5.
Like it was a real DB5, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So it was.
I don't know if we got them here or not. I can't remember.
I don't know.
There's actually one here in Illinois.
Is there?
Yeah, because I went through a DB5 phase. I think we talked about this in episode 0. And I set my desktop wallpaper to a DB5.
Yeah.
And then I looked at it. It had Illinois plates on it.
Wow.
Like the old Lincoln Illinois plates, not the new ones.
Yeah. The ones that are falling off?
What? Yeah. Yeah. Our state's terrible.
Yeah.
Not that we're there. We're in a marina in
Right.
LA. Thank you, Q. I was about to say cue the birds. Yeah. What's
that
with
was
all this
so,
traffic?
That was that was
it's
so
Los
realistic.
Angeles.
Water or something. So yes.
1978 Ferrari 308 GTS, owned by the director.
Cars. Yeah.
That was his personal car.
That was amazing. You did mention that, and I was amazed by that, but not surprised.
Right.
For him, I
was surprised because I always kind of viewed Cannonball Run as sort of like a cut-rate budget movie. But then I remembered, then I found out that the director also directed Smokey and the Bandit.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, that's where that money went.
Yeah.
Was into a Ferrari 308 GTS.
Yeah.
2.9-liter V8, which is a small V8. 2.9 liter. I mean, my Mazda 3 is a 2.5-liter inline 4. So this is twice the cylinders with barely any more displacement.
Yeah.
5-speed manual. And it was designed by Pininfarina, the 308 GTS.
Really?
Which they are also famous for designing
the Dodge Caravan.
The Coca-Cola Freestyle machines that you see in all of the restaurants.
What?
You know those touch screen Coca-Cola machines?
That's not a car.
I know. I know. They did design Cadillac Alante, which I reviewed. So I have driven a Pininfarina vehicle.
Oh, nice.
Which they actually have a Pininfarina badge on the side of the Cadillac Alante.
Yeah.
That little, not little, but that 2-door convertible that I drove.
But isn't there a model, the Pininfarina?
I don't think so. Pininfarina is a design company in Italy. They just basically...
I thought there was a Hot Wheels car or something like that we had. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
I'm not sure. But
so they designed
those Coca-Cola machines where you press and you can have like any flavor.
Right.
You can get like grape root beer or whatever, They designed those.
Okay.
If you actually look at the bottom of them, there are Pininfarina badges. So the same people that designed tons of Ferraris, they did a lot of work with Ferraris.
Yeah.
Designed the Coca-Cola machines.
It's interesting that that could be a whole different thing about how they do their business and designing cars and all that stuff.
1976 Chevy Chevelle Laguna. I could not find an exact engine. It said between a 5-liter, 5.7, or 6.6-liter V8.
Okay.
I'll
give you that.
It was either a 3-speed manual, 4-speed manual, or 3-speed automatic.
Okay.
That car was those cars, the Chevelle, and later on we'll talk about the Monte Carlo, very forgettable cars for me.
Oh, yeah.
Very forgettable cars. They kind of look like everything else.
Yeah, and especially for the time, they were like the every car.
They kind of look like a Mustang Mach 2.
Yeah.
They kind of look like, this. They kind of look like that.
Yeah, they could have been the invisible car for the for that era, just like the G6 was the invisible car for, the 2007. So it was... Yeah, literally that car you could drive it or park it anywhere and never be seen at all. It was crazy.
This one I actually called out during the movie.
Oh, yeah?
1980 Subaru DL.
You did. You did.
1.6-liter flat 4.
Yes.
And it's either a 4 or 5-speed manual or a 3-speed auto. The cool thing about this, because I've driven a Subaru DL, right? Like I said. Yeah. I just Googled 1980 Subaru DL.
Yeah.
My video was the second picture that showed up. My
Really?
own video, yeah.
Wow.
It was really
That's
cool. I typed in
awesome.
Subaru DL and like my thing just shot up and I was like, oh, I already know that stuff.
Well, so wait a minute. On what? What did you search?
Google.
Really?
On Google, if you type in Subaru DL, mine is the
DL.
second return.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
that is
that's
awesome.
pretty cool. That's pretty
to
cool.
have a second, to have a first page result in my book is huge.
yeah.
A first page result is like amazing.
Yeah.
But,
Which I think is a very interesting choice that they went with the Subaru DL.
Why is that?
Subaru.
Tell me more.
Subaru
Elaborate.
was not really big in the U.S. in the 80s.
Well, that's true. I don't remember in high school ever a Subaru.
Right. I mean,
which
is it's also interesting that most of the Subaru products, like the DL in this movie, was 4-wheel drive. It was this tiny little hatchback that was 4-wheel drive.
Mm-hmm.
Something that wasn't seen at all. It's a very odd choice.
And even in that movie, on the side, it says 4-wheel drive. It says 4WD, which is pretty cool.
That was real.
Right, yeah.
The DLs have that giant decal. Some of them have that giant decal. Or the Subaru Brat.
Oh, yeah.
They made the Brat had a 4-wheel drive logo on the side.
I do remember that. Yes, I do.
Yeah, so 1.6-liter flat. They are flat 4s. They've always been flat 4s. So it's horizontally opposed engine. So the pistons go out instead of up and down.
So that's how they got the rocket engine in there?
Yeah. I mean, if we want to get back to the stereotypes, they have these insane electronics in a car that have no place in there.
Right.
He has a VHS player, which he's watching like a naughty movie while driving, and then his co-driver hits him over the head with a VHS tape.
Yeah.
It's a very odd choice. I feel like if I were the director at this time, I would have picked out like a Toyota Celica. Or even like an RX-7, something sportier at least.
My friend had a Celica in high school, and it was very cool. And it would have been a much cooler car.
Because the Subaru DL that I drove, I believe had the same engine and transmission as this one. It was just the previous generation.
And a rocket engine.
No rocket engine. To the point where the owner of it, shout out Michael Harrison out of Indiana.
Nice.
He's huge in the community, the 4x140s.
All right.
This sticker on the back says, "Go around, I'm trying my best."
Wow.
That car was so ridiculously slow.
Okay.
A blast to drive. Great shifting feel. It was light and nimble, but it was so slow in a straight line that I just feel like this was one of those not so good castings Unless they were like, we want a rocket car. What fits a rocket? Oh, a Subaru DL does.
Right. And what would these drivers drive? That we've created this stereotype drivers.
Right.
That, of course, because they're Japanese, know kung fu and karate and all of that. So we're going to put them in some situations. And what would we have them drive? Obviously, it can't be an American car. It's got to be, some sort of.
But the Subaru DL was like a family car.
Yeah.
Obviously in the movie, there's an RX-7. They could have easily used an RX-7, which I think would be a better metaphor for Jackie Chan.
You know what? Yeah.
Tiny engine, 1.3 liter engine, but it packs a big punch.
It does.
Full of technology, hatchback. It looks very Japanese. The pop-up headlights, I feel like they could have really used.
Yeah, that would have been you're right. That would have been a much better casting for that car. Would have been the Mazda RX-7 because they could have done a thing where the hatchback pops up and then the rocket comes out and it's a big thing with the headlights go down and then they do their night driving.
Yeah.
Okay, we're totally redoing this entire movie.
We're just gonna shove RX-7s into all old movies. We're gonna George Lucas it and just digitally add them in.
So in James Bond, the underwater car, RX-7.
RX-7.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's basically like a propeller in the engine.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. So, and it's streamlined.
Yeah.
Like the Lotus. I mean, even, a little bit more so. So,
yeah.
I think
we're going to retroactively add RX-7s to every film ever made. Even The Lion King.
I'm even going to add it to the Fast and the Furious.
I think they did a good job with that already.
All right, fine.
Couple more cars.
Yes.
Harder to find info on these. The 1976 Chevy Monte Carlo just had a Chevy 350 in it, and it was either a 3-speed manual or a 3-speed automatic. You're only getting 3 gears either way.
Yeah, it's probably the 3-speed automatic.
Okay, you're done. That's all the shifting you're going to do.
3 on the tree or?
Floor.
On the floor, okay,
all right. 1980 GMC C35. That was that dually pickup truck that they have.
Gotcha.
That had no brakes and they jumped the train.
Yes, exactly. Of course.
Couldn't find an engine on that one.
Because there was, and it's nice that there was a ramp there.
Oh yeah, it just happened to be a ramp there, and there happened to just be a flat loading train car that didn't have anything on it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I couldn't find the engine, although it did come with an Oldsmobile diesel option, which I recently learned about. For a time, Oldsmobile had a diesel V8.
Really?
That was a Chevy 350 with different heads on it. And apparently it was so unreliable.
Oh, okay, well.
Because they literally just took a small block Chevy and just made it diesel.
Hence the reason why I haven't heard or seen anything about that.
I was talking with a couple friends last weekend about it.
Okay.
Well, because I said in a review, I was like, all Chevy diesels are Duramaxes. It's made by Duramax, or they're named Duramaxes, which is actually... Is
that true?
Yeah. They're called Duramax diesel V8s. They're actually manufactured by Isuzu.
Huh. Okay.
But I said in the video, I'm like, all Chevys have Duramax V8s. Duramax diesels.
Okay.
If they are diesel.
All righty.
And then someone commented, no, they used to have the Oldsmobile 350. And I was like, yeah, like in like the 80s. I'm talking about right now.
Like
I'm talking
once.
About, like one time. So that's the only reason I bring that up.
But that's, again, forgettable car.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Honestly, the next one, 1974 Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow.
Yes.
Forgettable car.
Yes.
Although they put some kind of cool rally lights on the front.
Yeah, that was neat. You did like those.
Yeah, I
love
rally 80s rally stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a guy in California who built a Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow like that.
Yeah.
And he did some crazy... He did like an exterior... radiator mount, and like he turboed it and all this really cool stuff. His name's Corbin, out in Los Angeles. He actually built one of those, and it reminded me of that.
So same kind of, well, it's not the same kind of car actually. It's a Rolls Royce, but in Grand Theft Auto, which we will talk about later, another movie with Ron Howard.
Oh yeah.
But
the old one, yeah.
The old one, so they'd use a Rolls Royce as well, but not a silver. This was a Silver Cloud or Silver Shadow? Silver Shadow.
Yeah.
Because there is a Silver Cloud, isn't there?
Something with a cloud. Rolls Royce is it's a very peculiar company because they kind of intermingle with Bentley.
True. Yeah.
And then they're not.
Right.
But
Yes.
like right
Right.
now, Rolls-Royce is owned by BMW
Okay.
and Bentley's owned by Volkswagen. So
Oh.
they don't intermingle. They're nowhere near the same thing. They're
Okay.
totally different manufacturing.
Yeah.
But back in the day, they were manufactured in the same plant.
Really?
Yeah, so they've gone back and forth. They've changed hands, kind of like Lamborghini. Lamborghini
true.
in the 90s was owned by
Brad McGuire. I don't.
Chrysler. Chrysler used to own Lamborghini in the 90s.
That is true. That you know what I did actually.
The Viper
know that.
V10 is
Yeah.
kind of a Lamborghini engine, which is actually kind of really a truck engine because our second gen Ram had the option of a V10. Yeah, fun fact.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's
Um,
interesting. Yeah.
Last car I wanted to
Okay.
talk about
All right.
was the very opening scene car. Not very opening scene. One of the early scenes, which was a 1968 Porsche 911S. That brown one with the body kit, the slant nose.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, that is candy.
That was very, very cool. It was kind of a. I mean, I understand what they were doing with. Okay, first they show him in a Porsche, then they show him in an airplane, then they show him in a cigarette boat. You know, the racer.
Yeah.
So
And then they crash.
and then they crash, and so
Spoiler.
I see what.
Sorry,
a
spoiler.
40-year-old spoiler.
Yeah.
I see what they were doing there, like explaining that these guys have all sorts of vehicles, but it kind of felt like, why are they out riding in all of these things? Like, why would they be riding in the boat?
It looked like they had budget left over.
Right.
That's
It was
honestly
like-
what it came out to be.
It was like, well, we rented this boat. We better
Yeah.
go take it out for the movie.
It reminded me of the Top Gear episode where old Top Gear, new Top Gear,
Right.
where they had extra budget.
Yeah.
So they're reviewing this BMW, and then they're just the next scene they're in Sydney, Australia, the other half of the world, and he opens up the glove box and he goes, "Yep, the glove box still opens upside down," and then that's the only shot in Australia.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
they were doing a joke episode of how they had leftover money. But it kind of seemed like that. They're like, let's do a plane, let's do a boat, let's do.
It really did, and in the movie it shows, you know, it starts out with them in the garage, and it says, you know, boats and airplanes, and it does say that on their sign.
Yeah.
But I did feel like, just like what you said, is that it was kind of like an afterthought. Like, yeah, let's throw Burt Reynolds into a cigarette boat.
And there's two slant nose Porsches in that garage.
Is there? Yeah.
There's two brown ones.
Yeah.
Like they look identical.
Yeah.
And there's a couple open wheel cars too.
But like, I don't. Yeah, it didn't. It didn't make any sense that they're in the boat. What were they doing in the boat? Were they testing out the boat? Did they just fix the boat? Did they just make the boat?
No idea.
Same thing with the airplane. What were they doing flying around in an airplane?
Well, I mean, I think this argument could be made by half the cast as well.
Well, I know
What was
exactly.
Sammy Davis Jr. doing in this movie?
What were a lot of people doing in this movie? I
The
mean,
Rolls
really,
Royce, besides that scene that I just talked about with calling ahead at the restaurant, I can't think of another memorable scene with the Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Oh, he gets pulled over by the police, and he says that his mom's trying to buy the state of California,
exactly.
and that he'll be lucky if she keeps him on board
Right.
or whatever.
Right, exactly. And then he drives away really fast.
Also,
and they chase him
huge stereotype.
No kidding. There are many.
I think one of the cops calls him like a camel rider or something.
I might have.
And I was like,
camel jockey or something. Yeah, which is just
yikes.
Yeah, you talk about cringeworthy. There's a lot of things
Yeah.
in there that were cringeworthy. And then Peter Fonda shows up
Yeah.
as one of the bikers.
Yeah.
And so obviously a throwback to the Easy Rider thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was weird because it was like Peter Fonda could not keep a straight face when he was talking to that other guy, which I want to say Burt Convey, but it might have been Burt Convey. I'm not sure. Anyway, and that whole thing about the motorcycle rider being too heavy, and so he pops a wheelie. Like, that whole thing did not make sense to me whatsoever. I mean, literally, I think that was a cocaine-fueled idea that came near the end, and a friend wanted to be in the movie, and they just went, yeah, okay, let's just throw this in there, because it didn't make any sense whatsoever, and wasn't even like, it just wasn't anything that was plot-worthy. And there were so many things in the movie that really made me cringe. Like they were almost trying to be a movie, but they weren't.
Yeah.
Like Farrah Fawcett, her character was supposed to be like this shy, absolutely gorgeous, but shy, naive girl.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you were just kidnapped by these people.
Yeah.
And you're not going to freak out about that and not try to get away. And I get it. It's a comedy movie. It's supposed to be campy and silly and goofy and all of that. It really, truly was one of the most campy films for cars that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Ever.
Oh, yeah. I do want to get into some trivia here because I have one that I really want to hit on.
Okay.
I'm too excited.
Okay, let's go.
Do you remember last night? Because you were watching
No,
the
I
film.
don't remember last night at all.
Yeah, that's probably all the drugs, Dad. But you remember last night I came downstairs.
Yes.
And you were watching the film,
Yes.
preparing.
Yes.
And there was the cop walking up to the two girls in the Countach.
Yes.
And I said, is that Burt Reynolds? And you said...
No.
You said not even close.
Right.
Ahem.
Okay.
The first highway patrol officer that pulls over the girls in the Countach was Burt Reynolds' stand-in.
No.
Yes. I called it.
No.
I called it.
I thought you were going to say Burt Reynolds' son.
No.
And I thought, that would have been...
Which, second of all, I was rewatching it. Well, I watched it 1.5 times today. Burt Reynolds didn't really age, but he was always kind of old.
Yes.
Was there a young Burt Reynolds at one point?
I never
remember. He was always kind of older.
Always the same age.
Because then I looked at some of the pictures before he passed, and I'm like, he aged really well.
He aged
didn't age
very
that
well.
much, but then again, he was just locked in at 36.
He was. It was weird. Like he didn't age in the movies, and he was. I still think of Norm Macdonald doing the imitation of Burt Reynolds.
Oh yeah,
which is hilarious.
Well, that's
one of
all
my
I
favorites.
knew growing up.
Yeah,
was the Norm Macdonald
so
impersonation.
Let's do a movie with Norm Macdonald as.
My God.
As I was going to say Burt Convy again. It's not Burt Convy.
Burt Reynolds.
It's Burt Reynolds.
Well, someone posted there was the Jeopardy SNL skit with Burt Reynolds, Sean Connery, and Alex Trebek.
Yes.
All who have passed in the last 2 years.
Yes. Yes.
Which is just insane timing.
It was them. It was Burt Reynolds, Sean Connery.
It was usually then like a third real celebrity.
Alex
like
Trebek.
They had Tom Hanks one time
as Tom Hanks, which was
and he was super nervous.
Oh my gosh, it was like the best. My appreciation for Tom Hanks went way up. I was like skyrocket high.
Yeah.
Like that is the coolest thing. Here's a guy that could do anything he wants acting wise. And he agreed to go on SNL and make fun of himself. Oh my gosh.
Well, you obviously haven't heard the recent conspiracy theories about Tom Hanks.
He's
he was like the #1 guy on the list for Epstein's plane, and then he was, Epstein. He had the private island that had like a bunch of kid slaves on it.
Oh
no!
Oh
wow, this is all new to you.
This is like I don't. You have to remember, I'm in a shell.
Yeah, I have to work you in slowly.
So
there's a guy named Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay.
Who had a private island.
Okay.
And had a bunch of children on that island.
Okay.
For miscellaneous things.
Oh, so not fun things.
Not good things.
Not good things. Okay.
Then he was sent to prison for this.
Okay, that makes sense. Good.
Where he, quote unquote, hung himself on a bedpost that was shorter than he actually is in height.
Well, he
so
kneeled.
He was murdered. He didn't kneel.
Well, he'd have to if it was. Never mind. Okay.
So basically, there's a whole conspiracy that he was killed.
He was killed, though. I heard that someone killed him.
People say that the Clintons killed him.
Clinton.
Yeah,
okay.
okay.
It's
a whole thing.
Go ahead.
Anyway, so basically, he had a bunch of children, slaves, essentially, on an island.
Okay. All right.
And then he had this little black booklet of everyone who went to the island. And apparently, Tom Hanks' name was on there.
Ah. Okay.
Now it's a conspiracy if A, they ever went to that island, and B, if they even knew about the children slaves. I mean, they could have just gone to a guy's island,
True.
But it's a whole conspiracy thing with Tom
it
Hanks.
is. Okay.
We won't dive. That's our other podcast.
That's right.
Conspiracies on Tuesdays.
Well, you have to remember, I'm sidetracked G, so I
Yeah,
get sidetracked like so easily.
So let's get back to the movie.
Yes.
More trivia from not sponsored by IMDb, but directly pulled from.
Okay. All right.
Jackie Chan made one of his first U.S. movie appearances in the Cannonball Run. Inspired by the director's notion of including bloopers during the closing credits, Chan began a tradition of doing the same in most of his movies from this point forward.
Oh.
So apparently that
okay.
was like one of like the calling signs of Needham's like directing.
Oh,
that
okay.
he would always put bloopers
Well,
at the end.
If you watch almost any, well, okay, so Smoking the Bandit had him, you know,
Right,
which
directed
is a
by
Needham
him.
movie. So, but if you watch Burt Reynolds movies after Smoking the Bandit, Cannonball Run, his movies, and I don't know if Needham did other, you know,
I was gonna say I didn't look into it
but other
because I know that they were close friends.
I'm sure
Needham and Reynolds were close friends.
Yeah, and I know that other movies that I was gonna call him Ryan Reynolds, which
definitely not.
which is not, part of the Reynolds family. So Burt Reynolds, Ryan Reynolds, they got to be like related because they got the same name.
Yeah,
That's
they do
how
the
it
same
works.
Job with the same name. That's how it works.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand it. That's kind of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
mentality of connecting things together.
Ideas, yeah.
Ryan Reynolds or Burt Reynolds. Yeah.
Pepe Sylvia. Have you seen the Pepe Sylvia
I
episode?
have not.
Oh
seen
man, if
either.
anyone knows the Pepe Sylvia episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
I will
It's
have
great.
to watch it.
It's great. I'll send you a clip.
One of my favorite, by the way, I'm just going to real quick shout out to them. Brilliant writing.
because they're listening for sure.
I know.
Yeah.
And they are some of our biggest fans. So,
The writers of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia are fantastic.
they are awesome.
Yeah.
Their writing is just tremendous.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. So, yeah. So, what else?
So I just thought that was interesting. The
Very
whole
interesting.
bloopers during
About
the
Ryan
credits
Reynolds?
about Ryan Reynolds that had nothing to do with Ryan Reynolds.
Okay.
Next up, the bulk of the stars in this movie only worked 2 or 3 days. And going off of that, this movie was filmed in 36 days. Just over a month of filming.
Way too long.
I mean,
Way too long.
After reading this, I'm like, oh, makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense.
It does.
Although there are a lot of location changes.
Yes. But
Which is impressive that they filmed
it is.
in 36 days with the amount of locations. But
Yes.
other than that,
But, okay, so remember the locations are like a roadblock in the middle of a forest in the middle of nowhere.
that's true. It was probably
Okay.
all filmed in one state, a majority of it.
Probably a majority. But also, I imagine this happened a lot on set. Oh, Mr. Needham, I blew that line. Should we go again? No.
Nah.
Nah.
No time.
No time.
No time.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
We got 36 days.
We got 36 days to shoot this thing. It's the Smokey and the Bandit of movies.
It is. That's exactly. We got a long way to go.
I was just about to say, well, because one of the
And a
trivia things,
short
I didn't
time
write
to
it
get
down.
there. Yeah.
I saw it. It was kind of a dumb piece of trivia. It was like,
There's no dumb trivia.
the director would show him dailies at the end of every filming.
Sure. Yeah.
Which that was like trivia.
Okay.
He showed him parts of the movie after filming it.
A lot of times they.
But I was
anyway,
gonna
go
say,
ahead,
I imagined that showing the dailies and just eastbound and down, like just starts playing in the background.
Load it up.
Yeah.
We got a movie. They say can't be done.
We got 20 hours to get this filming equipment from Los Angeles to California, or not Los Angeles to California, New York to Los Angeles.
We got a lot of film to film and a short time to film it.
Yeah, I mean, so it kind of makes sense.
Mhm.
I already said this. The Ferrari 308 used in the movie was owned by the director. That was his personal
that's
Ferrari
pretty cool.
308. This is something I found interesting.
By the way, one of my favorite cars.
Really, a 308 Ferrari?
The reason why, and I'll tell you why.
Magnum PI?
No, because my aunt for Christmas gave me a model of a Ferrari 308 GTB.
Oh, okay.
And I loved that car. And it's one of those things that it's really smart for car companies to make models of their cars because kids get fixated on those things.
Oh,
and
yeah.
for the longest time, I wanted a Ferrari 308 GTB. That was like
It's the only way you can touch one.
Exactly.
Is to have a model of
exactly.
it. You get to open up the doors and you get to pop the hood and
there's just this
throw
connection.
it down the stairs.
Yeah.
Homemade
And
ramp. Yeah.
And there's a connection made in your mind.
Oh, yeah.
I love that car. But I think that's a really fascinating thing. I'm sorry.
No. Well, going off of that, there's a modern point of it's so important that manufacturers put their cars in video games.
Oh, I agree.
Because
I agree.
part of the FD RX-7 craze right now, everyone's going crazy for the 3rd gen RX-7s.
Really?
They're hitting $50,000. Easy. Right. Easy $50,000.
Jeez.
Part of the reason is that back in the early 90s, there was a video game series called Gran Turismo. I'm sure you remember it.
Yeah.
Gran Turismo 1 and 2 had a lot of cars in it that weren't available in the U.S.
Okay.
And so kids would boot up their PlayStations and they would race in a circuit in, let's say, an AutoZam AZ1, which is you don't even know what that is.
I have no idea.
It's a tiny... AutoZam was a subsidiary of Mazda in the 90s, but only in Japan. It was like their cheap entry car brand. It was called AutoZam. They had the AutoZam Carol, and they had the AutoZam AZ1, and they had the AutoZam...
Ginsu knife.
Yeah. So basically, anyway, so this car, it was this tiny little car, 3-cylinder turbo, rear-engined Mazda that had gull-wing doors. My friend Ryan owns one. That little blue car, if you remember that.
Have gull-wing doors?
Gull-wing doors.
Wow.
Yeah, it's glass on 3 sides. It's right-hand drive. It's insane. But basically, it was the only way kids were able to drive this car was in Gran Turismo. It was in a video game. So they grew up playing this game with a car that they couldn't get. And now that it's 25 years old, they can legally import those cars. And those cars have just skyrocketed because of this nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
So something that happened in the mid-2010s is that Toyota pulled their cars out of racing games.
Really?
So in the Forza games, Toyota said, no more. You're not putting our vehicles into your games because they didn't want to promote street racing.
Oh, but that's a mistake.
Huge mistake. Yeah. And actually now they're back in.
Okay.
It took them a couple years, but now Toyota's back in because it's a very strong argument of, like, you know, you grow up driving these racing the cars in the game, then you aspire to own something like that. That's where brand loyalties are made.
Exactly.
It's not made at the dealership, it's made at home.
No. Brand loyalty is so huge with cars. Unbelievably powerful tool for the automakers.
That mixed with nostalgia, you're not going to sell anything else. Right. I mean, you know.
Yes, exactly.
So getting back to it, Ferrari GTS was in the movie.
GTS, but still just very, very similar. I mean, it's
fantastic car. I can't remember I think it was the next generation had a lot of fire issues. A lot of them caught fire.
I actually heard too, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard recently that on some Ferraris, getting new brakes put on is $10,000.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
All right.
That one of those Porsches that I filmed last year on the dyno at R&R Racing, shout out in Pennsylvania. I didn't drive it, thank God, finding this out. But a brake job on one of those cars is about $23,000.
Oh my God!
If you need new discs.
Okay, but still,
because they're carbon ceramic brakes. Oh. So actually, what a lot of guys do is they buy those cars and swap on standard brakes.
Okay.
Drive the car around. Then when they go to sell it, they put the carbon ceramics back on.
Oh, gotcha.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's okay.
Couple things about the DB5. A couple James Bond facts.
Yes. Okay.
First of all, Roger Moore never drove a DB5 in a Bond film, which was kind of funny.
Oh.
The DB5 was sort of before his time. Sean Connery drove the DB5 in multiple films. But Roger Moore never actually drove the DB5 in a movie.
That I never thought of. That I never made the connection. And you know...
Oh, you're the biggest James Bond fan I know.
James Bond movies are... And I was talking to Nick, other son. Shout out to other son.
Yeah, shout out other occupant of the home.
I loved James Bond movies when I was growing up because it was cool.
Right.
Like he was, suave and cool. And I love them now because they're hilarious. I laugh so hard, but just like enjoy the campy, it's totally not real.
Yeah.
I mean, and as a kid growing up, he's like, oh, that's really cool. And now you're kind of like, that's hilarious. And you look back at the movies and you're like, oh, that's so sexist. That's really bad.
Oh yeah.
And the books are even worse. But yeah, so I never knew that. I never thought about the fact that Roger Moore never drove the DB5.
He never drove the DB5. I mean, he drove a lot of cars in a lot of the movies, but never actually a DB5.
So technically, you could take a screen grab of Roger Moore in Cannonball Run driving the DB5 and just, him driving. Like, picture that.
Yeah.
And then ask people, what James Bond movie is this from? And no one would ever be able to figure it out.
I mean, unless a super fan would point out that it was fake, but other than that, there's no way.
Exactly. So that's a fun party game.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you. That's for
free. Do you remember we used to have?
I'm giving you that out.
You're welcome. Do you remember we used to have James Bond 007 Seen It? Do you remember the video series?
Yes.
It was like, man, this is bringing back a lot of nostalgia.
To be honest with you, I threw it out.
Oh, good. Yeah, I don't want to play it.
Right. I was going through stuff and
I forgot Seen It was like a very short-lived brand.
Yeah, but it was cool.
Where it was like just movie scenes, and then you had to select what it was from.
That was in the height of DVD.
Height of DVD menus.
Yeah.
Because there was a time when DVDs came out and there weren't really menus. You just put the disc in.
Yes.
And then menus were a big thing, and there was menu games. There was trailers.
Okay,
let
me tell you something you don't probably realize.
Okay.
I almost became a developer of DVD menus. I actually bought there's a whole programs that you could create DVD menus.
I remember the programs.
And so I wanted to get into that. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create DVD menus because I knew there were so many DVDs out there, and I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. This is the future.
There's never going to be anything more compact or easy to use than a DVD.
Exactly. And so I thought, oh, this is, I'm going to learn this because I used to be a computer programmer. I'm going to go and do this, and it's a combination of both like computer programming and this stuff. And now it's completely gone. There's like nothing. It's
I
like
remember you
doesn't
used to have
exist.
that T-shirt that said "Screw you, Laserdisc," if I remember correctly.
I used to.
You were all in DVD.
I used to make videos for Laserdiscs. Believe it or not.
That was a joke.
Size.
But wow,
no,
you actually made Laserdiscs.
Yes, the actual full size Laserdisc.
Fifth grade math class. We had a.
Yeah.
I was in honors math. Thank you.
Of course.
I don't know what happened to that. Well, I got kicked out of Algebra 2 in sophomore year. So
did you really?
It was short-lived.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you remember my teacher pulled me out and she's like, hey, this is not... here's a funny story. Totally tangenting.
All right.
Tangenting?
Tangentine?
Yeah, whatever. So
I don't know words.
I never did math homework ever. Ever.
Okay,
Stupid.
good. Nice. Thanks for telling me that.
Yeah, well, so I got a 6.5% on my Algebra 2 test. That was trying. I got a 6.5%.
6.5? Wait, out of 100%?
Out of 100%, I got 6.5%. I got 2 questions right. Yeah. Wow. So I told you this because I was super upset about it.
Let me just say something. I suck as a dad. I have to tell you that.
Why?
That I suck as a... Because I didn't know that. I didn't know
that. Dad, this story involves you.
Even more. So I don't remember.
I remember
That's
you
were
driving me to school in the Pontiac G6.
Okay.
And we're that right-hand corner by my unnamed school, so no one knows where we live.
Okay.
And I said,
Did I ask you a math question?
No. So I was very upset, and I was like, Dad.
The cotangent of?
Yeah, you threw a TI-84 at me. I said, Dad, I got a 6.5% on my math test.
Yeah.
And I'm really upset about it, and I'm really scared about it.
Yeah.
And you were like, well, one time I got it I think you said like a 10% on your math test.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, oh, really? And you're like, yeah, I was just off by one of the numbers, so like everything was wrong because I was just off by one, like with the questions. So like your answer sheet was one off. And I was like, that doesn't help at all. So you knew the answers, you just filled them in improperly. I thought I knew the answer.
Okay. No, are you sure that was me, though? Because I don't remember ever saying that.
I remember this distinctly.
I said that.
Yes. You said that you once got like a 10% on a math test, and I was like, oh, so it's going to be okay. And you're like, well, I misnumbered it. And I was like, oh.
Well, so what did I say? Well, I'm not stupid. I'm not a dummy. I didn't get...
Yeah, but no, I got pulled out into the hallway by my teacher, who was kind of mean. And she said, we don't think this class is for you.
Yeah.
And then I had to do math on a laptop in a room with one other person for the rest of my sophomore year.
Is that that must have been before I sued the school.
Yes.
I think I did sue the school.
Which is why we have all this money to record this podcast in our basement.
On Fisher-Price microphones.
Yes, sorry, no. We're filming this podcast at the Bay.
Yeah.
What? I don't even know what that is.
It
sounded like a puppy.
That's
puppy that's drowning in the movie. Spoiler alert.
That is correct. That's the baby.
Unnecessary.
That is the baby.
Unnecessary part of the film. Cannonball Run.
Completely unnecessary. Okay. By the way, let me throw out a couple things that getting back to the movie.
Yeah.
Couple things that I noticed in the movie that I thought were really like, what? Okay. So first of all, one of the things that they do, which makes a lot of sense, and I believe probably the real Cannonball Run does this, is at the beginning of the race, they punch in. There's some time card.
Yeah, I thought that was super smart.
I thought that was a great idea. Now, here's the thing. You're already ahead of me.
Same thing, yeah.
You're already ahead of me.
Go for it. Say it. Tell the people.
At the end of the race, everyone is racing to get their time card into the final machine that will dock their points, or that will take their points.
Right, yeah.
But since they all started at different times, it didn't really matter who was going to put their card in first, as long as the one who did put their card in, or who did get the final fastest time. Okay, this is really complicated.
It just mattered the time between the stamps.
Yes.
So
that's
if
all
you
that matters.
stamped your card, if you got the stamp last,
yes,
you technically had a little bit more time.
And they were one of the ones in the ambulance. They were one of the last ones to leave, as I recall it.
So they technically had more time.
So they technically had time where he didn't have to race to get to that machine.
Right.
He could have then gone over and picked up the card and put it in the machine, and probably they would have won. Which, another thing.
Yeah.
Who won the race?
I don't remember. I was just about to ask you.
There is no. They never say.
Oh, really? I thought it blanked there.
So no. So in a way, okay. So either it was a coke-fueled idea.
High possibility.
Yes, to go. Oh yeah, we forgot to say who won, or it was a brilliant directorial move to make sure that they gloss over the fact of who won. Because if no one wins, you're not sad that the people you were rooting for didn't win.
It's kind of like the ending of Inception, which you still haven't seen, have you?
I have not seen Inception.
Basically,
there's a spinning top. The guy falls over. There's some things that go up. They go up and down. They walk on the ceiling of a hotel. Done. See, I just like Bella.
Yeah, you got all the points. I think Needham was leaving it open to interpretation of the mind of the audience.
Right.
Blah, 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 whatever. I was about to ask you who won because I was like, I don't remember.
Well, and I think that was the point.
Okay.
They didn't really want anyone to win because then it would be like, oh, well, so-and-so won. So that was, I think it was actually a pretty cool idea that they glossed over that.
Yeah.
The first person to put in their card were the girls in the Lamborghini, who no idea what the characters' names were. But basically, the girls in the Lamborghini were running up alongside of Dom DeLuise.
Yeah.
And then he went, dun-dun-dun, and he goes over and he jumps into the water. Now, she puts her card in. You see her put the card in. But she wasn't the first one to leave the gate. So technically, you never know who actually won. Plus, they never go back to Jimmy the Greek. They never go back to that whole thing with Sammy Davis Jr. making that big bet.
Was Jackie Chan even at the ending?
He was. But, okay, so here's another part.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the movie, when Jackie Chan is leaving, he never punches the card, and they make a big deal about it. They go, the guy still has the card in his hand like he's going to give it to Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan flies by, and he's got the card, and he goes, the guy kind of shrugs his shoulders and goes,
so Jackie Chan was never in the race.
Technically, he wasn't. And if you catch this, Sammy Davis Jr., his character, whatever his character's name is, says to Jimmy the Greek, he says, what are the odds that these guys, the Jackie Chan guys, won't finish the race? What are my odds on that? Because he wanted to bet against them that they would not finish the race. Technically, he won. If he placed that bet, he won. because they didn't finish the race because they didn't punch in. There's no way to know. So they would have gotten last place or would have been eliminated. See the complex levels of movie making that we've just made? You're welcome, Needham. You're welcome.
Also, at the ending,
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Genius of movie making.
At the ending, there is a black Trans Am with a guy.
Yes, there is.
With a, I think, screen-used Bandit jacket on.
Could be.
Which, I mean, makes sense because Needham also did Bandit.
Yes.
Which I thought was just an interesting, weird time to throw it in. Just like, hey, reference to like...
Again, probably one of those things. Yeah, I don't know. Throw it in there. Just put it in.
It's like in this podcast, if I just kept referencing one of my Hyundai Sonata reviews. It's like, why? Throw that in. You don't need to.
Yeah, I know. There were so many things in that movie that were thrown in, like, why is this in here? Why, there's no... And truly, there's no character development. I was thinking about that fact. There really is no character development of anyone throughout the entire movie. Everyone stays exactly the same.
I mean, except Farrah Fawcett, like,
yes, maybe
she like
a little
accepts it, but that's not
but that's
not like a character arc. It's just kind of something that happened.
And there is such a thing as a flat character arc where the people don't change, and what they do tend to do is if a character doesn't change, the reason why is because their ways help to change other characters.
Right.
And so. But they were all flat. Nobody changed.
There's no curve at all.
There was nothing. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. And then another fact that jumped into my head too. Okay, now it just jumped out, and I have no clue what I was.
You just got lost and confused.
I got lost in Inception or something.
Yeah, you're going in a home. After this podcast is done, we're getting in the Mazda, and I'm taking it to Monarch Landing.
Well, as long as it's your Mazda in the garage, then we're fine.
Yeah. It doesn't run.
It doesn't. Not yet. It'll run.
Getting back to the DB5, though,
DB5.
because we seriously deviated. I'm interested to see if you picked this up.
Yes,
because I thought I picked this up.
Whatever it is, I did.
Okay, sure. In this movie, the ejector seat of the DB5, driven by Roger Moore, Sir Roger Moore.
Sir Roger, that's right. He was at night.
Is activated by pressing the cigarette lighter.
Yes, which is wrong. But
yes, that's what it says. But in actual James Bond DB5,
it's in the gear shift handle. But
it's activated by a red button hidden under the gear shifter. Yes.
In fact, Q says, "You see this red gear shift button? Whatever you do, don't touch it."
Yeah. Great
I can't. Hello, Governor.
Which in my adult life, I've always been perplexed about how they do that. The button on top of the shifter, because it has to go down like with the linkages. Like running a wire to that must be annoying. But then I just remembered that
it's fantasy.
it's a movie. That the Subaru DL.
Yeah.
Driven by Jackie Chan.
Right.
The 4-wheel drive is on the gear shifter. It's on the top.
They did have one, The
manual gear shifter. Yeah.
So that is true. That would be really weird from a wiring standpoint. I guess, flexible wires, blah, blah, blah. It would be fine, but I would still love to have a car that had that, just for fun.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it was just like to turn on the radio. That would just be fun to have a car with
I'll see if they make a shift knob for that. That'd be kind of cool.
Maybe for the Model A.
I was going to say for the RX-7, but yeah.
That would be kind of cool with the Model A. You flip up the gear shift.
Two more facts here.
Okay, there we go.
Ron Rice, owner of Hawaiian Tropic, loaned his black Lamborghini to his buddies Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham.
That was his
car.
Well, he's seen a lot. The Hawaiian Tropic is seen a lot. It gets a lot of screenplay in that beginning.
Screen time,
whatever.
But this is the other interesting part. The same Lamborghini can be briefly seen in the background at a party of Big and Little Enos, Bernadette, at the end of Smokey and the Bandit Part 3. So
Part 3?
Part 3.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so the same Cannonball Run Lamborghini, which there was only one of. They didn't have 5 of them on set. Like Fast and Furious, we just talked about. I think there was 9 Supras that they had.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
There was just one. It was literally a guy's Lamborghini that they borrowed.
Yeah.
Which actually changed hands in 2014. A guy bought it and had it restored.
Huh.
So it's still kicking around somewhere. He drives it to meets and shows and stuff.
That is, I mean, it's
which
still
is pretty neat.
It still would be a kit car that I would love to build. I wouldn't want to actually own a real Lamborghini, but I would love to build one.
Yeah.
And just there's a long story behind that, but I would love to build one because I really like the look and the style and all that.
Yeah.
But to be honest, and you've driven a Lamborghini, I would not want to own one. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, but I think the reason I didn't want to own a Lamborghini is the same reason. I mean, if you're going to do a kit car, you're going to put so much time and effort into it. They're not going to want anything to happen to it. Yeah. But I guess if something happens to the kit car, you're out 30, 40 grand as opposed to 250.
Yes. See,
I mean, Countach's are going up.
See, to me, when I really back in it was like like 95, 97.
Yeah.
When you guys were born about that time, I really wanted to build a kit car, and I wanted to build a Lamborghini kit car because if you build a kit car, trust me, you know every nut and bolt. Yeah. You know every bit of it that's in there. You know how.
I remember you used to have kit car magazines.
Yes, kit car magazines.
Do you still have them?
I had them, and I threw them out. Okay. I threw out everything. I threw out your childhood.
Yeah,
basically.
It's fun.
No, but I have a picture of Nick reading a kid car magazine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in our old house. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So
I need to scan in more of those pictures. I might take a box of those up.
Good. If you do, that's great. I would appreciate that. And no one has any idea what we're talking about.
No, yeah, I mean, just we have boxes and boxes of family photos.
Tons.
That need to be scanned in. But I'm really just looking for like car photos that I can use in reviews and stuff.
Well, you have a ton in there, though, of you guys. Well, you guys were always into cars, always.
Yeah.
There wasn't a time that I don't remember ever that you guys were not into cars. In fact, the little bouncy seat that you had was a car.
Oh, yeah.
Back
when I was a child.
Yeah, we're talking baby.
Yeah.
And it was, and then you guys had the miniature cars.
Yeah.
You had the little
Hot
push
Wheels
around. No, you had the push around cars.
Oh, yeah, that's
that you sat in. And then you had battery cars that you drove.
Here in 2021, the Cozy Coupe has gotten a fresh redesign.
Really?
They redid the front end of it. Yeah.
Excellent. They do have the Cozy Coupe police car too. Which
because
cool.
we were talking about it on Nick's podcast, the RLR podcast.
Yes.
That they redesigned the Cozy Coupe. It gets a redesign every about 15 years.
Really?
It was redesigned. The last redesign was more recently redesigned than the
earlier redesigns were
Nissan
redesigned?
Frontier pickup truck.
Oh.
So the Cozy Coupe has gone through two generations.
Yeah.
When the Nissan Frontier hasn't even changed in that same time period.
Well,
so Nissan's dropping the ball on Cozy Coupe.
But remember, though, that the Dodge Ram for a long time had pretty much the same look of it.
Yeah, that's true. Oh,
I mean,
well, no, but they redesigned it in 2003. It was a refresh.
Okay.
The Nissan Frontier has been the exact same.
Has it really?
Like, you could take, 2008 Nissan Frontier headlights and just bolt them into a 2021.
All right, I'm buying the Frontier then. That's what I'm doing.
It's not a bad truck. I told you, it's on a secondhand market. I think it'd be a good truck for you.
Yeah?
They're very basic, but,
Well, I love basic. I love basic.
Only thing that pissed me off was the steering wheel.
I love basic. That's why I was going to buy a kit car Lamborghini. That's so,
Yeah.
No. So, okay, you're going to talk about something.
No, probably not.
No, probably not?
No.
Okay. No, I thought you
Thanks
had
for
another.
listening. One last fact, which I think I already told you.
Yeah.
The front shots of the ambulance driving down the road were some of the last to be filmed.
Yes.
In what director Needham referred to as a poor man's process. Mm-hmm. They were filmed in a garage with crewmen shaking the vehicle back and forth, and the scene with the rain was filmed by simply spraying water on the windshield.
Yeah, it's what's interesting, and that's a great thing. I've actually done very, very similar shots where I was trying to shoot. It was two guys driving. They were two brothers, and they're in a car, and they're driving home from the airport. So what we did was we packed up luggage behind them so you couldn't see behind them.
Smart.
And then we shot it in a garage, and we shook the car a little bit.
Yeah.
And we had some people flick lights so that there would be some glare,
like passing lights,
like passing lights, and there would be a little bit of glare on the windshield and things.
Was this
like
in your parents' garage?
No.
That thing is like barely. That's like a half-car garage.
No, this was at somebody else's garage. They had like a 3-car garage.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, and we actually had
back in the 40s. That's a big deal.
Wow, shut up. No, this was actually back close to the 2000s, early, like 97, 98.
This was more recent than I thought.
It was. Yeah, you guys were. No, wait. Yes, no, you guys were like just born. So yeah, it's probably
so either
like
95 or 97.
95 or 97. But anyway, we were in the garage and we were doing that, and it made it work. And when we put it together, no one had any clue that we were shooting that in the garage. And I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They did that. That actually is a famous scene. You're talking about louvers before. In the movie On the Waterfront, they actually have they show a cab, and these two people are sitting in the cab, and there's louvers in the back of the cab, so you can't see the back and the outside. And it was a way for them to film the movie, just basically shooting right into the car, and they didn't have to worry about the background or anything.
Interesting.
So,
louvers on a cab is weird.
Yeah, it was an odd thing, but it was that you talking about the 40s. That was probably 50s.
Which I also just recently found out, checkered cabs.
Yes.
I
almost bought one.
That was a company, like Checkered.
Yes.
I thought that they were like Chevys or something.
I almost bought one. Almost.
Hey, in the same light though.
1989.
When the Grumman LLVs come up for sale, because the post office is getting new ones.
the post office, yeah. You gonna trick those out?
I got a little savings account going, and if
do.
they come up for cheap,
yeah,
I might buy one. Seriously.
Hey. All right.
Because that would be fun to make a couple of videos with. I wouldn't keep it for too long.
Yeah.
But that would be fun to make a couple of videos with an old mail truck.
Oh, yeah. It'd be like and it would be like a Miata. That Miata with, you just buy it and you have fun with it.
Buy it, use it for a bunch of videos, have fun, and get rid of it.
Get rid of it. But, yeah, that car, I really wanted to buy a checker cab. There was one for sale, and I almost bought it, and I think it was like $1,000 or something. I almost bought it, and that's when I found out that Checker was a car company.
They just made cabs.
They just made cabs.
Yeah.
And those cabs ran forever.
Yeah,
they're like
were
solid.
Yeah, the mail trucks now, which are getting refreshed for 2023.
Yes, you were talking about that.
They're called Grumman LLVs, which literally stands for Long Life Vehicle.
Oh, okay. The new ones or the current ones?
The current ones.
The current ones. Those things have been on the road a long time.
Since the early 90s.
Yeah.
Which I was thinking, what did mail trucks look like before that? Were they just whatever? Was there a standardized mail truck?
I think there were, but I think they were more like a Jeep. I think they were like a Jeep. But I, to be honest with you, I don't recall. Because most of the time, and this is really going to date me, they have, we had
horse-drawn carriages?
Wow. All right. Wow. Okay. So no, our mailman would come by, and he had this giant like saddlebag that he would push on a cart. And I remember him, like he had all these different pockets on this. It looked like a giant saddle you'd put on a horse, but it had all these pockets on it. And he'd push it on a cart. And then it was great because he had everything he needed and all that. Didn't have a car, or if he had one, he left it at the end of the street and just loaded up his stuff and then just walked his route. But you remember too, when I was your age, actually younger than you, when I was born, there was only 14,000 people in this city. Yeah. There's now over 145,000 people. So, back then you knew everyone, and there was a very small footprint for, that. I think it was more like Jeeps. It was probably the old. I would not be surprised if it wasn't the old Army surplus Jeeps, because there was a time when you could buy an Army surplus Jeep for $50 and they would ship it to you and you had to put it together.
I now recall, yes, they were Jeeps.
Yeah.
I know someone a couple towns over that has one.
Okay, so you were lying.
Well, I know of him. I've never met him.
So you totally
knew. I follow
knew
him on Instagram.
All right, fine. You totally knew the whole time.
It now has a twin-turbo LS motor in it. and it makes like 900 horsepower.
That
out
is
of a mail truck.
Great to have in a mail truck. That is great.
It doesn't have seatbelts, so
okay.
yeah.
That's really, really dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, the new ones now have air conditioning and backup sensors and cross traffic alert and blind spot monitoring.
Do they have a backup camera? Do they have a rear camera? Because they have to, right? Isn't that the law now?
Legally, yes. Any vehicle sold in the manufactured after May of 2018 is legally required to have a backup camera.
So if you go buy a new car nowadays and they tout a rear backup camera,
everyone has
them. That's not a big deal.
Which one of the tricks I learned from one of my dealerships from the salesman, they would point out that
always ask your manager. Say that you have to ask your manager for approval.
No, she was saying she always points out whenever someone's buying a car that, with this certain brand, I don't want to blow up their spot, but with this certain brand, you can physically see the bumper in the backup camera. So you're not going to hit anything because you can see your own bumper.
I see.
And then she looks at me, she goes, you can see the bumper on like 99% of backup cameras. Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Our Mazdas are different in that way because the camera's so far back, like hatchbacks.
Yes.
But like pretty much anything else, you can usually see the rear bumper in your camera.
Okay.
But
yeah, it's funny because I grew up in a time without rear view cameras or without backup cameras, and I like them. I really rely on them now, but it's kind of scary at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it's and then of course we have the Model A that doesn't even have like all the mirrors it should. Like you can't even see what's coming on your left hand side.
It wasn't standard to have a passenger side mirror until the 80s. The very first year Mazda RX-7 did not come with a passenger side mirror.
Okay.
To the point where if you brought it back to Mazda for like maintenance or whatever, they were supposed to put one on.
Wow.
So it's very rare that you'll find, there's one here in Chicago, and then the one I reviewed, the 1979 RX-7 that I reviewed on Shooting Cars, go check it out, did not have a passenger side mirror.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very cool.
Had a rear view and driver side mirror, that's it.
So speaking of that, in the movie Cannonball Run that we're talking about.
What's that movie about?
I forgot.
Who's in that?
It's been a long time since we've talked about
I'm just thinking about math equations and mail trucks.
I am too. That's pretty much all it's in my... I'm thinking Kit Car Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
But did anyone in that movie use a seatbelt? Anyone. In any time.
Ooh.
Even including the cops.
I don't know. I don't know when seatbelts were mandatory in vehicles. It had to have been around the time of that movie.
I would think so, but... again,
they were always safety options,
right?
But they were never standardized.
Well,
but another showing of the time for sure.
Yeah, there wasn't the big push. I remember late 80s, I would say probably late 80s, early 90s, there was a big push for seatbelts. I mean, like really started.
And then 2000s, we got click it or ticket.
Yes. And that really,
a really funny Workaholics bit about that.
Really?
Yeah. Where the guy Adam yells in Too Fast, Too Furious. He goes, Paul Walker, click it or ticket.
Wow.
Yeah, he was trying to impress some girls. It was funny.
Well, I remember I used to never wear my seatbelt, ever.
Why? What?
Because it was stupid. And so here, one day I was visiting my brother at work, and I was in my Mazda RX-7. Beautiful, shiny, awesome, beautiful
slow
car.
12A 13B master race.
It was slow, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was great.
So here's this pristine, beautiful car, and I just left my brother at work, and I'm like, great. I'm in a great mood. I'm right next to my high school, so I'm feeling pretty good about being in a cool sports car, near my high school, and I'm sitting there, just pulling up to the light, and for the whatever reason, I have my seatbelt on. I never put my seatbelt on, but I had it on, and I got rear-ended. I got nailed, and that is the accident that completely demolished the car. It ruined the car completely. It bent the frame. Everything was bad after that. But
as we learned, those frames aren't rock solid. Exhibit A, you. Exhibit B, me.
Well, with your car, it would have shattered and exploded to a billion pieces.
Yeah. I'll be wearing the taillights.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that, and after that time, I seriously went, I need to wear my seatbelt all the time.
That's super interesting because For me,
Mm-hmm.
like not wearing your seatbelt sounds like one of the stupidest things you can do.
It's stupid. It is absolutely stupid.
And it's just funny that I grew up like that. But
Mhm.
I took Grandpa to go get his COVID shot the other day.
Yeah.
And he doesn't wear a seatbelt.
Yeah.
And my car...
Did you slap him?
No.
Did you slap him upside the head?
My car gets pissed.
Yes.
My car gets pissed. It's a 2019 Mazda 3. To the point where, like, I'll pick up Bella
Yeah.
and I'll put it in reverse before she's buckled. We're just backing out of her driveway.
Right.
And it goes
Yeah.
beep, beep,
Yeah.
beep. Like, it yells.
Yeah.
Like, yells.
Yeah.
And so, Grandpa, not the best at hearing, he doesn't hear the car screaming at him.
Yeah.
So we're just driving down the road. The car's just
Yeah.
screaming, and he's just sitting there. And I'm like,
are
it's
you,
just
like,
too...
Yeah,
it's
you
two
yelling at
different
it at this point?
generations.
Yeah, it is.
No,
It is.
I was like, I didn't say a single word. And then, like, later on, he goes, yeah, seatbelts aren't really my thing. And I'm like, all right.
Okay,
It
all
shuts
right,
up
totally.
after a while, luckily.
Yeah.
But even in my car, first of all, it flashes red on the dash if you're not buckled.
Wow. Yeah.
And then my head console, like where the map lights are and everything,
Yeah.
it has 3 more unbuckleds for the back seats.
Wow.
So it's like an airplane. It'll actually say
Really?
if the back seat is unbuckled, if it senses
Wow.
weight back there.
Okay.
Which normally it doesn't because I don't really drive with people.
Mhm.
But I have my camera equipment back there, and it's
Mhm.
like, hey, they're not buckled. And I'm like, it's
So-
a camera, you idiot.
So, and I remember someone else said this. It wasn't me, but there was a guy who said this in a book I read, where he said, if you order enough Taco Bell that when you place it in the passenger seat, the seatbelt light goes on,
Yeah.
you've ordered a lot of Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And it's So, yeah,
Or the G6 had that
Yeah, it
had
did.
passenger seat sensing.
it did.
But it was so laggy that I would
The
drop
person had left the car 3 minutes
No,
ago, and it was
seriously, I would drop
yeah.
Bella off, and
Yeah.
then there's this long road outside of her house. It's super fun to drive if you're not going to hit a deer.
Right.
It's terrifying. But I would
Or-
get
yeah.
onto that long road,
Yeah.
and it would start flashing at me, and I'm like, "She's gone, dude.
Yeah.
Don't remind
Yeah.
me." Like,
Yeah.
like
That's-
it's,
yeah.
and then like halfway home, it'd be like, "Oh yeah, no one's sitting there.
Right.
Never mind."
Yeah, it happened in that car like
Yeah.
a couple times to me too, where it was almost like, is there a ghost in this
Yeah.
car?
Well,
I don't-
actually,
yeah.
there have been ghost sightings with Teslas.
Wait, what?
Have you heard about this?
No.
So we're
What?
way out. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
One more time.
What?
Thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted that clean audio. Tesla senses when there's like trucks and cars around you, obviously for the autopilot, and it senses
Okay.
pedestrians. And so
Yes.
on your heads-up display in front of you, it'll actually show a little pedestrian. Well,
Really?
people have been driving through graveyards,
Yeah.
and they'll see just a pedestrian pop up
Yeah.
like in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, that's freaky.
It is freaky. I think it thinks the tombstones are people.
Yeah.
I mean, a cross on a tombstone
Right.
looks kind of like a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yes, and there's always explanations for things, absolutely, especially in electronics. And I'm going to tell you that electronics and electronic sensors, yeah, they can sense things,
Yeah.
but they're not like, I don't know. I have my own personal things about that. We could do a whole podcast on ghost cars, but
I was gonna say, you know what? Has there been a horror movie with a modern car?
okay, I was about to say Christine, but then you said a modern car.
Right. They could totally remake Christine
Yeah,
with a Tesla.
No, okay, we're trademarking that,
Yeah,
right?
hey, Elon Musk, sit down. No, but like
right.
think about it, because
true, yeah.
Tesla has summon mode. You know what this is?
No, wait.
So
I summoned you.
you remember James Bond? He's driving it on his phone.
Yeah,
That's real now.
no.
That exists.
Oh wait, you're right.
You can't
Because-
go above I think it doesn't go above 3 miles an
Yeah.
hour, and it has the flashers on the whole time it's doing
So
it.
you can only kill 3 children on the way to getting. Yeah. Okay.
But
So
you can drive your car from your phone. Actually, also the Hyundai Sonata now has that too,
jeez.
called Smart Park, and you
Okay.
can only move it forward and back.
okay.
So if it's a really tight spot, you can get out and just
Mhm.
have the car. You hold it,
Okay.
and as soon as your finger leaves the phone,
uh-huh.
it stops.
Okay.
I know you're terrified.
It does. That's really pretty scary to me because I can see so many things going wrong, only because again, I used to do programming,
yeah.
and so I know the terrifying glitches and things that could go wrong with all of that.
You have to know there's some line of code that is keeping that car from doing 100 miles an hour through your phone. There's just some letters and numbers.
Yes.
That's it. There has to be some way that you can unlock it and drive it at 100 miles an hour through your phone.
Ones and zeros that actually control that.
Someone's going to jail. So, getting back to it, I think someone should make a horror movie about killer cars, where it's some mastermind guy, some guy with 8 screens in his basement, just like the guy from Speed.
Yeah.
And
they always have the 8 screens. So it's always a big
every supervillain has a color-changing keyboard and 8 different screens.
Yeah, I think they get them on Amazon, and it's for evil evil geniuses.
Yeah, it's a honey code. You get a discount. It's Evil Genius 1.
I love honey.
Honey's great.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I think they do. And then there's like a whole section in Amazon for evil geniuses.
I take that back though. Actually, one of the Fast and Furious movies, there's a guy that hacks cars. It's the zombie car scene.
Okay.
And he makes all these cars drive out of a parking garage and onto the street below. So it's just like raining cars.
Yeah, I seem to remember hearing or seeing that, but there's also in one of the Terminator movies, Rise of the Machines, I think it is, where the Terminator, who is the chick in the red, that's totally not politically correct, but the woman in the red dress, she's the Terminator, and she can activate cars, which, okay, I could see that happening now with like self-driving cars.
95?
But that was 95 or so. That was earlier on.
2 was 92.
Okay, you're not going to get a Chevy SS to drive itself.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
95 Taurus is
It's 95,
really,
a 95 Taurus.
It could barely run on its own when someone was trying to drive it, let alone someone outside the vehicle.
Yeah,
I think someone should make a horror movie about a zombie car.
Yes.
Because it's actually a realistic thing. Christine was so far-fetched. A car getting possessed? No, that couldn't happen. But a car getting hacked now?
Yes.
Think of a Tesla, all the interior lights turn red. Ooh.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be very good. And by the way, if anyone ever does make that, I want a like small part where I'm like I'm on the corner waving or something. Or you could kill me with the car. That'd be fun.
Oh yeah.
Kill me with the car. That'd be great.
Just like in Christine.
Yeah.
Because now this is actually physically possible. Crush the guy with the seat.
Oh yeah,
power seats.
That's right.
Actually,
because you kind of were you in a car that was like really tight like that?
Oh, Grandma and Grandpa's.
Yeah,
exactly. It has the auto memory seats, and they wanted me to move.
It was like a James Bond. It was like the villain. I'm going to turn the seat all the way up.
Yeah.
To the front.
So it was their Cadillac XT5, and they had 2 keys.
Yes.
One of them was set to Grandpa's, and one of them was set to Grandma's.
And Grandma is a very slight woman.
She's 71 pounds, maybe.
Soaking wet. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like a very tiny lady.
So they wanted me to move it, or I was taking it, or something. Yes. I forget what I was doing with it, and I grabbed her key. But Cadillacs, here's the thing. Cadillacs have a get out mode.
Oh.
So there's a button, or whenever the car is off.
Is it escape hatch through the roof?
No, it's a red lever. No. Exit mode is the seat goes all the way down and moves all the way back.
Ah,
so anytime the car is off, it's moved all the way back, so it's easy to get into.
Okay.
So it's literally out of a horror movie. I get in, turn it on, and it senses the car, and without me touching anything, it just goes and starts crushing me up against the steering wheel.
Did you start screaming?
And I'm sitting there, no. I was almost crushed to death by a Cadillac XT5.
I could totally picture that happen to me too, because I would be like, no.
I also drove a Mercedes.
Yeah.
S550, a 2014 S550, which is that's the big nice one that had the massaging seats in it. That's I think sold for new is like 140 or something.
That had the seat that made omelets for you, like you could tell it what omelet you wanted.
Made in the trunk.
Exactly.
But there was a button,
right?
And you'd hit it on the door, and then your seat controls that are on the door, controlled the passenger seat.
Ooh.
Right. So if
you could be really mean.
If someone was sitting there, you could just hit it and move their seat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see that for like if someone's sitting behind them and they, or someone sitting in the back.
Yeah.
And they say, I need some more leg room.
The S550 is a car you get driven in. It is
Really?
not a car
Yeah.
you drive.
Really?
It is a car you get driven in.
What is the S? What was
Mercedes S550. It was a
Mercedes
2014. It had
Okay.
been through a rough life too.
Yeah?
Well, when I drove it, because this was last year, so it was 6 years old. Someone
Okay.
had not been nice to that car.
Yeah.
The backup camera was broken. It was
Wow.
blue.
How-
It was tinted all the way blue, and
How do
one
you
of the door
break
handles
a
didn't
backup
work.
camera?
I don't know. That's why that seems like a Mercedes fault, or
It was possessed. It's a demon car, just like what you're just saying.
100%. No,
Oh.
it was probably rear-ended,
Oh yeah.
and then they fixed the bumper, but they didn't fix the camera.
Yeah.
Or they just put some cheap camera in, or they botched the fix, whatever. It was
Yeah.
most likely in an accident.
It's amazing, like if you have one loose wire in a monitor,
Yeah.
how it will just change.
Yeah.
Because you've got the general RGB, and then if you don't have one of those, yeah, it goes back. Anyway, so
You and I are screwed if we ever need a windshield,
yes,
because our windshields have the radar cruise built into it.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that's why. Yeah, I mean, the car we got now is great, but I don't know what we're gonna do now. And the thing is I go back and forth, and of course this is way off topic, but I go back and forth because one of the things I love the most about the Model A is that it's so basic and so simple.
Yeah.
There's nothing to it at all. If something goes on, or if something happens, you can replace everything.
Right.
And there are catalogs of
And contrary
literally
to
every
popular
part.
belief, parts are super easy to
Yeah,
find for the Model
they
A.
are.
They're not always cheap,
No,
but they're
no,
available.
but they're available. They have entire catalogs where you could build an entire car, I bet, with some of those
Yeah.
catalogs. Max catalog.
I'm
Mac,
part of the
M-A-C-K,
yeah.
MACS. Shout out.
MACS. Yeah, shout out. I'm also part of the Model A Facebook group.
Yes.
There are people often sell running driving chassis
Yeah.
where it's the engine and transmission
Yeah.
on literally just a bare chassis.
Yeah.
And they're like, it'll run.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that you could run just literally a rolling chassis
Yeah.
with you've got the engine, all that, and then you could out of these catalogs literally buy every single piece you need to build the rest of the car. But getting back to that, now with the technology that you have, like you said, something goes wrong, you have a whole chain of technology behind it, like that front glass, like the cruise control.
Yeah.
There's so many things tied into that piece of glass that you might as well just call it a day, because obviously that's why there's insurance, but it is, everything's tied to everything else.
Yeah.
So very, very difficult. And coming full circle to the Cannonball Run. I think that we were talking about Cannonball Run at some point. I think
Yeah, is that Patrick Swayze movie?
No, I think Ryan Reynolds was in that one.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Okay,
Ryan Reynolds.
I know
So,
which one you're talking about.
those cars, most of those cars, well, maybe not for I don't know about the Lamborghini, but they were very basic cars.
Yeah.
They were very, truly basic cars. Now, of course, the modded out Subaru, that's not, that wasn't a basic car, but those were all kind of.
Well, the DL was a basic car, though. It was not an expensive car.
But they faked all the computers.
I
and
mean,
stuff.
the jet engine in the trunk was a little.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
and when you flip all the buttons, and it's like
yeah.
there's no reason to flip the buttons like that. So those cars, though, yes, if something did go wrong with those, you could figure out a way to make them work and put them back together. So I miss that simplicity. But unfortunately, with the push for better gas mileage and technology and all of the niceties, cars are so incredibly complicated. When I was in school, the very last thing we learned was computers and cars.
Yeah.
That's the very last class we had before we had shop class, which was literally everyone just drives on the car, you figure out what's wrong and you fix it. Well, that basically was the beginning of truly having full-blown computers in cars. And to me, I was like, oh my gosh, now I've got to learn computers. And at the time, I didn't know computers.
Right.
But I was like, oh, I've got to learn computers now to try and fix a car. That's crazy. And sure enough, I mean, now, and I love the fact that, don't get me wrong, ECUs are great. I think those are really cool and awesome. I love
the Mega Squirt is sick. I love it.
And I know, and the thing is, the stuff that you can do by
Yeah.
tuning it with a laptop, that's awesome. But at the same respect, I remember having to, you tune a carburetor with literally a screwdriver. I mean, that's what you would tune it with, and adjust it. And it was so sloppy. It was just incredibly, and you got to get out of tune very easily.
Right.
And now you've got the ECUs where you have perfect control. And you have manifold problems or manifold. What was it? Manifold?
Danger to manifold.
Danger to manifold.
Yeah, throwing it back to last episode. Yeah.
So if you're following the episodes in order.
Yeah. First
God
of all,
bless
you got a lot of time.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And God bless you. And we appreciate that. But yeah. So I feel like, in a way, I'm kind of stuck between this thing where I love some of the new advancements. It's great. And I love, the backup cameras and things like that. But I also kind of yearn for the simple, V6 short block engine that you could just plunk into a frame and make it work.
Right.
And there wasn't much to it where nothing truly had to be like electronically controlled or anything like that. So not even fuel injection. But of course, you can do a lot with fuel injection. You can do a lot with all that stuff. So, I think the Cannonball Run obviously was a fun movie about cars, but I truly believe, getting back to it, that it was targeted for like 14, 15-year-old guys.
Oh yeah, people that didn't actually have their license or
this
or
whole
new drivers even.
Yes, yes. This whole fantasy about being able to do that and
racing coast to coast,
exactly.
It's a very campy, very childish movie. What's up?
Back to that though, has there been? I mean, we joked about Cannonball Run 2.
Yeah.
How many Cannonball Run movies have there been? Movies about racing from one side, from coast to coast.
I know there's documentaries about the real races,
right?
But that's excluding.
So exclude that. So you got the Cannonball Run series.
I don't know.
Which I think there's like what? Cannonball 1, 2, and 3.
Is there a third?
I think there's a third.
Oh, God.
I do think there's a third. Okay,
let me get on the
Googs. So yeah.
Or Bing if you want to sponsor. Shout out Bing.
Yep. Shout out to whoever sponsors is basically how we roll because we are sellouts and that's okay. So that's what I teach my kids. Be sellouts and it's good.
And it's worked so far.
It's done us very well. Out here on the coast of the the West Coast and the harbor that we're at.
I'm not seeing a Cannonball Run 3.
No?
I'm seeing wait.
There's got to be a Cannonball Run 3.
Wait.
If there's not, is it about Cannonball Run 3, the ghost car?
No, it just came up Cannonball Run 3 with Brooke Shields and John Candy. What?
What the heck is that? Oh, that's frightening. Brooke Shields and John Candy. So instead of Dom DeLuise, they did the John Candy character, and instead of Farrah Fawcett, they did Brooke Shields. Is that kind of
Tim Matheson, Melody Anderson, Donna Dixon, Peter Boyle, Lee Van Cleef?
Yeah, Lee Van Cleef. Yeah.
It's just listed on Amazon, and it's not currently available.
Wow. I mean, so it's Cannonball 3?
That's what it says. 3.9 stars out of 5. There's no description.
I don't necessarily. What's this?
So I go to reviews.
Yes.
This is from Lisa.
Lisa. Shout out to Lisa.
Shout out Lisa on Amazon.
On Amazon. If
you're
Lisa
listening,
on Amazon.
Yeah, thank you for this.
Yeah.
I was under the understanding that this was the English version, and it's not.
Oh, my gosh.
I can't watch this or play it.
Wow.
I don't want it.
Wow. All right, so does it say what it is? Because I would buy it from her.
Next review, the movie doesn't play. This might be a bootleg. Because, first of all, neither John Candy nor Brooke Shields are on the cover.
All right, this is a new mystery thing. We're gonna have to track this down because
Taking a screenshot of this.
all right, yeah.
And okay, it's a motorcycle cop, but like a NASCAR.
Oh, that is a bizarre front cover. That's weird.
Ah, okay.
I know you can't see this on the podcast.
Right.
But it's
Oh, wait. We
What?
found a picture with the back of it.
With the black Lamborghini?
No,
What are you talking
with
about
the back of the DVD case.
Okay.
And it is not at all in English.
So it's a knockoff.
But there's a picture. That's a picture of John Candy on the back.
Oh my gosh, that's
That's
a picture
John
of
Candy. Okay,
Well, that
hold on.
That doesn't mean that it wasn't knocked off. That doesn't mean. I mean,
A police chief's attempt to halt a coast-to-coast car race fails when inexperienced drivers sit in for the pros. Released April 21st, 1989.
Okay, so 1989. That's 8 years after the original. So that could be it could be. But here's the thing. That sounds like the combination of Smokey and the Bandit and Cannonball Run. You think about it, because Smokey and the Bandit 1 was a sheriff trying to stop, the Burt Reynolds guy from doing his stuff and doing his thing and traveling with the stuff and the things.
Eugene Levy's in it.
No.
Yes.
All right, so this is another one
So
we're gonna have to dig up. We're gonna have to take a look at this. And
Oh, interesting. Wait. I'm reading here.
Yes.
So, it was sold as Cannonball Run 3
Yeah.
outside of the U.S.
Okay.
But here,
yeah.
it was sold as Speed Zone.
Really?
So it had a different name.
Okay, probably some legal issues there.
Yeah, it was called Speed Zone with the same
Speed Zone.
cop flying off the thing.
Yeah.
And John Candy,
Really?
Eugene Levy.
Yeah. Might be a movie we need to review.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, especially because it's the tie-in to we can call it Cannonball Run 3 /
Speed Zone. Wow.
After we do Cannonball Run 2.
When the driver of a Lamborghini is arrested. It has cars in it, so.
There's cars, and they're racing across the United States. So Speed Zone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Speed Zone. Cannonball Run 3.
Speed Zone. So, yes, I think isn't it fascinating how we just came up with another podcast during a podcast?
Yeah. I always say you guys are hearing live the marketing meeting and idea meetings.
Yeah, exactly. That is very true.
We very seldomly talk about this podcast off the podcast.
No, we talk for a couple seconds.
Yeah, I'll just say, hey, do you want to record tonight? Yeah, sure.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, and then we just go.
So I think those are my thoughts on the Cannonball Run.
Yeah, me too. I think so. I think
what time are we at?
We're at 1:56.
God bless.
Yes, exactly.
God bless.
So hopefully you've made it. You've done your jogging while you've listened to this, or you've driven your car 100 miles. And
I was just about to say. So we're hitting two big audiences right now.
Yeah.
Asleep individuals.
Yes. Putting them to sleep, or actually asleep at this point.
Correct.
Yep.
Or dogs that are home alone and they forgot that this was on. Those are our two audiences.
I think we rate pretty high in the Dogs Home Alone.
Oh yeah, we're one of the top podcasts for Dogs Home Alone.
If you have a sad dog that would like company, we are the people to turn on. You just turn on our podcast, let it go, and your dog will be like happy as anything.
Woof,
like
woof.
us.
Yeah.
Woof, yeah. Shout out to the dogs.
Shout out dogs. So wrapping up the podcast.
Yes, I guess
we've been alternating back and forth who's picking the movies.
Right.
So I get to pick the movie. This is the first time
yes.
I get to surprise you. And
wait a minute. That's right. This is a surprise. Okay.
Right. So
this is actually surprise, by the way.
And next episode, I want you to surprise me with your next pick.
I will.
And we're gonna go back and forth. It's a thing. It's a running thing we're gonna do on this podcast. We're gonna surprise each other with the next episode.
Okay.
Are you ready for my pick?
I am ready. You gotta have to put some sort of cool drum roll in here.
Yeah. I actually just had to download a drum roll sound effect for one of my videos today.
Okay.
There's a lot of different ones.
Yeah.
Ready,
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me.
Cars.
Cars.
Pixar's Cars.
Pixar's Cars.
Yeah, from 2006.
I like that movie.
Came out on our old dog's birthday.
Really?
Yeah, it came out on Mushi's birthday.
Really? That's nice. See, again, shout out to the dogs. This
Shout
is a
out
podcast
dogs, man.
for dogs.
Number one movie car podcast for dogs.
I think that is.
We found our lane, guys. Thanks for listening.
That is. We're going to stay in our lane.
Yeah.
For that. Excellent. Excellent. So Cars. Sounds good.
By Pixar.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really interesting. It's up there. It's in our DVD case.
Absolutely. We already on. That's great.
So luckily we already have
that's all I care about.
Thank God. I don't have to spend $3.99 on a DVD.
$3 at
But yeah, I read an interesting thing about it the other day where Pixar basically had to develop a series of rendering systems for this movie.
Okay.
Because the cars are glossy. No movie like this before had so many glossy reflective surfaces that Pixar literally had to make programs in order to render the reflections in the cars.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Absolutely.
I mean, because this was...
I get that.
You know, it came out in 2006. That means they're working on it 2005, 2004, 2003. Probably even earlier than that, honestly.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And I, you know what? I'm glad you said that. I'm going to be looking for that, obviously, in the movie when we see it again. This is one of, and I'm excited now that you told me that, because this is one of those movies where huge character development in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Huge. I mean, well written. Of course, it's Pixar, so it's well written. But
wow.
What?
Owen Wilson's wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kuchanka or whatever. What is it?
Kachow.
Kachow.
And then his opponent goes Kachiga, which hasn't aged well, as a saying.
Okay. But it is one of those things where great story.
Right.
Really, really great story. Very classic storyline about, the whole hero journey thing and all of that. And I mean, I want to get more into how movies are put together in the storyline, because that will be a good one for that. Obviously, they're made.
Start preparing your own notes then. All right. If you're sad that we're not talking enough about story arcs,
true.
Start writing down some stuff about story arcs.
I'm not doing no homework.
I just want it to be known that I'm the only one that ever shows up with notes.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I show up with tea. I show up with a hot tea. Hot cup of tea.
Lukewarm now.
No, it's empty. I drank all.
Wow.
No, I show up with nothing. I give nothing. I just blew the VUs on this thing.
Good.
Yeah.
But yeah, next episode. Cars. Huge impact on my generation. Life is a Highway. Song, which is actually a cover.
Yes.
Not a lot of people know that.
Really?
Yeah, the one using the song by using the movie by Rascal Flatts.
Yes.
It's a cover. Someone else wrote Life is a Highway. So
all right,
we'll save that for next episode.
I was going to say, let's save that for next time. Okay, so you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, thank you all for listening to this episode. Cannonball Run. I was going to say
we both do that.
That was my real and true honest, because that was my honest thoughts, because I was going to say it was pretty good, but then I was like, I don't want to say it's pretty good. So you just heard live me actually trying to figure out how I feel about this. It's a movie.
No, it is, and it is one of the jokes that we have in our family. If we just go,
yeah,
when we're not too thrilled about something, but yeah, that's kind of, you know what, and the reason why I'm laughing is that's my feeling too. It was fun to see it again.
Right.
I was actually kind of like taken back by how like it hasn't aged well with some of the stuff. It really. Some of the stuff actually like offended me, which I'm not the kind of person that gets offended.
Right, I want that to be
known.
We're not like woke activists. We really don't care about things.
I don't even know what woke is. So anyway,
do you really not?
No, I do know. I do know what woke is, and it's trust me.
Woke and dope. Okay.
Remember, I'm a word guy, so I
right.
Yeah, whatever. So for me, same thing where it's kind of. Entertaining to a certain degree, fun to watch again, but kind of weirded out by it, in a way. So, but
yeah,
and that's it. That's my wrap up.
We're gonna wrap up in 1 second.
Yeah.
I think we ran longer than the film itself.
I think we did. I think I think next time we're gonna have to channel Burt Reynolds or Ryan Reynolds or something.
Yeah, whoever Reynolds tinfoil wrap.
Yeah, exactly.
And shorten this down. But thank you all for listening. Next episode, we're talking about cars.
Sounds good.